Hello there, friends.
Hello.
This is Spencer Michaud, and this is my partner Tanja Andrews of Third Coast Mojo. And today we're going to be doing a Gemini season Q&A. I hope that you're having a wonderful Friday afternoon out there. We're going to be answering all of your questions today, whether it's astrology with your astrology chart, whether you have some questions about Gemini season or astrological magic. Tanja is a magical practitioner with a beautiful Etsy account called Third Coast Mojo with all sorts of astrologically elected materia. So you've got the expert here today in studio. So
A person who is enthusiastic and has been doing it for a long time with great hyper focus. I think that's the best description rather than expert. Like,
there you go. She's had lifelong ADHD, and
that's right.
this is where the hyper focus.
That's right. The hyper focus has brought us to this moment.
Right. All right. So just if you have questions, just put it in the chat and let us know that you're here today. It's nice to just see friends stopping in. We've got a few announcements before we start today, so welcome all of you friends today. Of course, today's our Gemini season Q&A. Just open forum. We're just going to spend a couple hours here with you and talk about some of the astrology coming up. We have an I Ching and an animal for the Gemini season, but this is sort of your time. We're going to show up and kind of answer your questions. If you have questions about astrological technique, if you want to learn some more things about astrology or about your own chart or about things that are going on in the sky right now, all of those things are open for discussion. Okay, a couple things though. You can find me over at spencermichaud.com. I have all sorts of wonderful offerings over there at Spencer Michaud. Oops, there you go. There you go. So you can find all of my offerings, including my Mythos natal readings, where we do 2 hours where we deep dive into your astrological story and look for any repeating patterns that you might have in your chart. That was one of the things that Tanja and I connected over when we first met, was our astrological charts and astrology.
It's a great way to meet people.
Right. If you want to do the Kairos transit reading, you can kind of get a leg up on the next couple months ahead and prepare yourself for all the twists and turns of your fate. Hore is a quarterly check-in where you do 4 quarterly transit readings per year. And then the Oracle is like a specific question if you're wanting to kind of dive into one specific issue. It's a little bit of a shorter session. I also do Big 3 mini readings, Sun, Moon, Rising, and astrological tutoring sessions, which I'm super excited about. I've got some tutoring students right now, and I really enjoy teaching. So if you want to learn astrology, Hellenistic astrology, tarot, the decans, fixed stars, I would be happy to be your curriculum setter and accountability partner. Okay, so also you can visit the store where Tanja and I both have some things that are, we have some webinars we did together.
Yes, indeed. It's a team effort, a labor of love.
So I did a Decan webinar series where we go over all of the different webinar concerning all of the different decans, like the 36 decans or faces of each sign. Tanja and I did a series called Dignity and Devotion, where we kind of broke down the 7 traditional planets and how to craft a magical practice around that. Tell us a little bit more about that, Tanja.
Yeah, we just really kind of dug in on all the associations and significations. Oh, we got to snuggle. Ooh,
we got to get closer right here.
Uncontrollable. So we kind of dug in together on the associated symbology and mythology and kind of the stars, the decans, the magical process, how to build an altar, how to kind of start your devotional practice, some things to consider when you're doing astrological magic working with those particular planets, and just kind of how to kind of get that going. And there's so much information in those. We really
it was a lot of fun.
Just dumped our brains out and it's there for
it was like 4 hours each.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun. We had some nice people that stopped in too, and some nice discussions in the middle and towards the end as well. So really great resources for you if you're getting into astrological magic or just astrology with the decans. There's also another Stars and Cards webinar there if you want to see the connection between astrology and tarot. That is a good one to do as well. And of course, Tanja has a magical business.
Third Coast Mojo.
Third Coast Mojo. So we've got all sorts of cool things. I've got like 9 featured slides here, Tanja, if you want to talk about these a little bit.
Some of the things that I'm using the most out of my shop right now, because not only am I the creator, I am also my best customer probably. This is something that just kind of grew out of my obsession with working with the planets and with hoodoo and conjure and root work and astrology and kind of mashing it all together. And so I actually use all the things that I make. I test them on myself and Spencer here. And so some of the things that I'm using a lot right now, since Saturn is in Aries, which is a place it does not love, so it can't really soar there. So it's nice when you have something like this where you have kind of like a better essence of the planet kind of bottled up and available to you. And so I have been using my scientific method, which was one I made with Saturn in Aquarius. And so that's really helpful for kind of having a clearer head around kind of planning and visioning and kind of getting a bigger picture, getting outside the box a little bit. And sorry, I'm not sure if you're
Yeah, I
trying
can hear you.
to microphone me. So that's something that I've really been loving. I use that a lot. I'm using a lot of Mars things since Mars is in Taurus to kind of like retain the kind of energy and the drive. Something like Exalted Mars. I did a lot of things back when Mars was in Capricorn, which is just so good. And so it was very close to the degree of exaltation. So this is really like top notch, super duper good Mars. And so it's just great for kind of like, Blockbuster is one of my favorites. Just really opens up the kind of possibilities for you and kind of helps you get over the things that you're doing yourself that are, holding you back. So obstacles, both internal and external. Mars is just really great for that, especially in Capricorn, where it's really exalted, it's focused, it's tactical, and so that's just really like good Mars essence. And I love using that. Sun, Sun in Leo, easy life. This is one of my favorites. It's just so cheerful and just really kind of smooths things out. I love using it. That's just it has this beautiful citrusy fragrance. I do custom fragrances for each of the oils that I create myself with kind of top, middle, bottom notes, all made with essential oils and all natural isolates. And so it's really kind of pure. And we're also bringing in that kind of like plant spirit magic as well, which is just so delicious. Venus in Pisces. So, like, you got Exalted Venus. So, Come to Me is kind of a classic conjure formulation. And that's one of the ones where you can kind of bring like things, bring people to you, kind of draw things in that you need. I use it to find stuff sometimes. Like when I've misplaced something, I smear some of that on me and I'm just like, come on, and it comes back and it's so helpful. So all of these oils are actually really versatile and it's fun to kind of use them in different ways. Crown of Success is another really popular one, and this is great for kind of success in business, success at school, whenever you're kind of trying to raise your profile or kind of achieve that exalted kind of status where it's just like you're on the throne, like you're in charge. Mercury and Virgo, Hermes harvest.
We're
We're
just
gonna talk super fast like that thing from
micro
Vegas, the
machines.
micro machines, man. That's another one. Speaking of Mercury doing the most, I did a really extensive series of Mercury and Gemini workings recently where it kind of went nuts. So there's that kind of effect of Mercury and Gemini, which is to kind of proliferate, like one becomes two, two becomes four, and it just explodes. And
Yeah.
so instead of doing just one election, I did a day one and a night one with kind of different focuses for each of them. And so those are going to be rolling out once they've had a little bit of time to simmer. But we're just going to give you a little teaser that something really exciting is coming. Exalted Jupiter. Soak it up while it's here, folks. Oh man, Jupiter and Cancer is so
We
good.
got a couple more weeks
So
left of
good.
Exalted
Yeah,
Jupiter.
make the most of it. Like,
And
I know we're going to be probably repeating this throughout the show today, but people really, while the benefics are in this good condition, like lay the groundwork for stuff. Connect with people, make the most of the abundance that's available right now. I did this Exalted Jupiter working last year, and it's just some of my favorites.
we've got
I love using
we've
it.
got a really nice Venus Jupiter conjunction happening next
Yeah,
week too. So
yeah,
we'll talk
that's
about that a little bit
for sure.
today. So find her over at Third Coast Mojo.
Third Coast Mojo.
Support your local astro mage here,
Haha.
and yeah, that it's good stuff. It's work. They're works of art, and Tanya really takes her work seriously and has done her homework and is just really puts a lot of her beauty and grace into it. So support her over there.
Aw.
If you want to know when we're releasing new things, you can subscribe to the newsletter. Know when we're going live. Know when Third Coast Mojo is going to be releasing new things. That is a great way to stay in touch. There's a song of the week over there as well if you want to know what the latest astrological musician. I believe this week was Gnarls Barkley, which CeeLo Green is a Gemini, so that's
Little
interesting.
throwback.
The
Love
last
it.
one we had was Aurora, who was a Gemini musician as well, so that was pretty cool. You can also support the channel by buying a super chat today while we're live, or going to buymeacoffee.com and becoming a patron of the work that we do at buymeacoffee.com. All right, friends, that's sort of our little announcements here. Thank you for sitting through that. We've got some friends stopping in today. Elisa is here. What's up, Elisa Salazar, 8424? What's going on? Hope that you're doing well today. Hope that you're having a wonderful afternoon. If you have any questions about astrology or astrological magic, please let us know. Javiera is here. What's up? Says otherwise, you guys look a bit squished.
I have a very small personal space cushion when it comes to this guy. I'm a bit of a claustrophile. Like if there's the opposite of claustrophobia, I'm just like, no, just let's have no space.
Part of that is because we did have separate studios that we were recording in, but then some of the technical things were not working out in the other studio. So in like sort of the last 20 minutes before going on here, we're like, we need to set this up in just the one studio that I do. And so that's kind of why you're seeing this like this. But yeah, but you know, it's all good. It's Gemini, right? It's Gemini season. Here we are, the twins. Two of hearts. Right. So friends, if you have astrological questions, if you have astrological magic questions, if you want us to look at your chart, if you want to, one thing to think about today too with Tanja here that is really useful is one of the things that when we work together, oftentimes when I do a reading, sometimes people will be like, well, how do I fix some of these things in my chart? How do I remediate it? You know, not like everything is, can't fix everything. There's different types of fate in the world where there's some things that we're just going to have to deal with. But astrological magic, I mean, part of it is being able to nudge things in certain directions, right?
Yeah. And I think all practical magic, you're always kind of trying to kind of tack along with the wind. I don't know. I'm not a sailor, but I think that there's something where it's like you're going where things are kind of taking you, but with intention, and kind of like making small adjustments along the way. And I think that conjure, hoodoo, planetary magic are all really good things to do that with.
Yes. And so one thing that we do is when I'm looking at someone's chart or do a session with them, I'm going to send them over to Tanja and be like, hey, here's some products that might help with this. Here's some elected oils. Here's some glamour soaps or whatever it might be that they're trying to achieve. Like one of the ones that we're kind of really guiding people towards right now, since Saturn's in such a challenging position with being in its fall in Aries, some of the Saturn in Aquarius materia is really good for like seeing the big picture, having patience. You know, it's just trying to cultivate some of the qualities that might be missing in the sky. And I think that's really a good way of thinking about things.
You can also supplant things.
Yeah.
You can also kind of supplant things that are less good kind of in your own chart, or kind of like work around them by amplifying things that are strong for you. So those are kind of a couple different things that are also really good for that.
Okay. So can you guys hear Tanja okay? We're trying to work with just like a slapdash setup here today. She sounds okay in my headphones, but if she needs to, still can't hear her, huh?
Is this any better? I'm trying to use my stage voice. Project.
Yeah, let us know. Also, the video is zoomed in too close that my view and sound on iOS. Barely audible. Uh-oh, that's not good. What if we share this microphone? What if you talk into this? Now we're really gonna get intimate here.
Yeah. Extreme close togetherness. So maybe
this?
We look like we're like an old timey thing from like we're sharing a milkshake at the malt shop and trying to like drink out of the same thing with like two straws because we just want to like be like two kids in the 50s. We're just going that old school. So, maybe we'll just kind of lean back and forth a little bit. We'll go in. Yeah. I'll come in and be like, hey, what's up?
And so I doubt you probably heard any of Tanja's sales pitches with Third Coast Mojo then. So that's awesome.
Great. But that's okay. It was.
Yeah.
We'll get back to that later.
Okay. That's better, Ani says. Okay, good. Much better. Perfect audio now. All right, good. Sorry about that, friends. And the short of it, Tanja has a lot of amazing things at Third Coast Mojo with all of the 7 traditional planets, you know, being able to kind of elect something that might help you with challenging placements you have in your chart, or even challenging placements in the sky. Like we were talking about Saturn, and Saturn's in a challenging place right now. Your mental discipline might not be as supported by the planet in the sky right now, by Saturn and Aries, but like with Tanya's like Saturn and Aquarius materia, it might be a lot easier to do some Saturnian things. Same thing with Mars right now. Mars right now is in Taurus. Mars has a little bit of difficulty with consistency in Taurus. So sometimes there's challenges around being
inertia,
right? Getting
yeah,
started
yeah.
on something,
or like stopping when you're doing the
and
wrong thing,
exactly,
like that kind of like, oh, like it's like the boulder's just rolling down the hill and you're like,
right.
no, like,
And Ani's saying that's why I have scientific method, right?
yeah.
So I think that that's another interesting way of going about things, is saying if the planets in the sky right now aren't supporting the goals that you have, how do you work with elected materia where the planet was in a position that could help you achieve the goals that you have in that moment? So like, for example, Mars in Capricorn is good for sustained energy over time, right? And being able to strategize where you want to utilize your energy, where you want to put things out into the world, how you want to build your empire, I guess you could say. I don't know. I don't really like using empire terms anymore, because we're sort of trying to dismantle some of that
Right?
toxicity.
But I think that's the thing with Mars, because it's so kind of associated with that war element. You have to use terms like tactical or strategic, like things like that are kind of conflict. But I mean, conflict and difference is part of the embodied experience, I think. And so there is always going to be situations where you might want one thing and someone else might want something else. And sometimes you can't necessarily agree on things. And so you do need to have that ability to think ahead and kind of have a vision for like, how am I going to get what I want? Or how will I support the people or the causes that I care about and that are meaningful to me? And so you have to have that bravery sometimes, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in the service of something bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. We were talking about the other day where a lot of the first 10-degree section challenges of Aries are like the dominion qualities, right? So that decan is called Dominion, by I don't know, what is it, the Golden Dawn and Aleister Crowley. I don't know. It's Book T, Book of Thoth, one of those two sources. And a lot of the challenges with that, what we were thinking about is people in power trying to, dominate and colonize and take over space. And, one of the things, like, sometimes you're the dominator, other times you're the person that's being dominated. So maybe even utilizing Saturn materia in that regard could help you if you're being dominated by someone else who's trying to take over your space or something like that as well. So those are qualities to kind of mitigate some of those challenges. Okay, so friends, got questions? Got any astrological questions? We're still working through the sun in Gemini right now. So we've got the sun in the second decan of Gemini. So if we share our screen and kind of look through that here a little bit, just to see where we're at, maybe we'll trigger some thoughts and some questions around things. Let's see if we can get this going here. All right. So this is, you still see us on the, let's remove that. Add that to the stage. There we are. All right. So you can kind of see the chart here. If we make it small. Yeah. Here's our big face. Maybe we'll make this chart big today. What do you think?
Big with the chart.
Go big.
Then we can kind of like lean back and forth.
Let's go big. Go big or go home. Let's see.
If you are just so eager to see our faces,
there we go.
Let us know in the chat.
How about that? Now we're on that side. So you could see here we've got Gemini 2 sun still hanging out. We've got Mars in Taurus. We have Venus applying to a conjunction with Jupiter in Cancer in the third 10-degree section of Cancer. We have Saturn in the second 10-degree section of Aries right now. which that deccan's a little bit different. So we have the delusionary quality of Neptune still in the first decan, that like Dominion type of Lord of Dominion kind of thing, right? Ani says I have a stellium there. Neptune is still co-present with Saturn. The power struggle is real, right? Ani says I don't have any questions, just hanging out till I have an appointment. But let me think. Nice, Ani. Yeah, let us know if you have something that comes to mind for sure. So the second decan, though, of Aries is related to the Three of Wands, and that one's more related to the royal decrees, right? The ability to uh, say, okay, now that I've made a new start, now that I have initiated an activity, I've created, I've started to create my own world and experience. What are the values that I have that are non-negotiable, I guess you could say? What are the royal decrees that I want to make that say this is what I believe? First decan Aries says this is what I'm not. We're rejecting that which we are not. In the colonization language, they're saying we're rejecting sort of the motherland and going off on our own to find our own independence, I guess you could say, on some level. There is that quality with it, like separating from the mother to be able to go independently.
Individuation, where
Right.
you're showing that you're an individual and kind of saying this is where I take a stand as myself. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and if once you have that established, then you are saying, what do I believe in? And then the third decan of Aries says, how do I get people on board with my vision? Right? How do I use my charisma, my humor to sell this land, or just to like say, hey, this is what you should come live here, or you should be a part of this project, whatever it is, right? So, Saturn going through that decan says, it's almost like you don't have a choice right now. You have to declare what your values are. You have to say, this is what I believe in. And you're almost forced into it. You're bound to it. There's a binding energy to Saturn, right? So it may also be kind of painful sharing your values with like Saturn. It might feel like it's a little bit like, ugh, I don't really want to do that, but this is something that's being foisted upon me.
And this is a decan that's where the sun finds its exaltation, really. Like it's very solar decan. And so think about how kind of different those energies are, where the sun is just going to be shining and kind of like making those decrees and kind of sharing that vibe and that glow. But then you have Saturn there, then that's not what that energy is about. Like that's about like slowness and deliberation and kind of like what's happening in the shadows and
And
the
hiding,
the
right?
foundations.
Hiding.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes even like genuinely like obscuring things.
Right.
And so to have that be like, oh, like you're thrust onto stage, sometimes I think as a very Saturnian person, I feel that sometimes, I mean, especially like I'm having a first house perfection and Saturn is my time lord. And so there is that feeling where it's like sometimes, there's an energy of like you want to disappear or you want to just work in the shadows or like not be perceived. But with Aries, everything is very like thrust into the spotlight. Like it's like
Right.
the birth and like just bursting forward and this kind of life and profusion. And that's not really what Saturn's about. So that mismatch is really glaring.
Yeah, and we didn't really catch the Saturn and Capricorn elections. I think that was like prior to 2020, right? That was
It's
like
like in 2020.
in
We were
2020.
we were going through it.
Yeah, there was a lot going on around that period of time. And Tanya's magical business was just kind of getting started, and she was getting her feet underneath her in that period of time. But she did capture some of the Saturn and Aquarius energy. And it was like what, third decan of Aquarius, I believe it was.
So
Yeah, and that decan is a little bit more about how do you leave something behind? How do you leave the past behind? How do you like take an overview of what you want to complete? There's completion energy to that. So like where Saturn in Aries is giving us initiation energy, it doesn't do very well with sustaining that energy over time. So this is one of the things right now with like Saturn, we might have a lot of real power towards starting new things, but we might not have the type of energy to complete something. That's one reason why you would use an astrologically elected material to say, okay, well, there's starting energy in the sky right now, but I need an extra boost to get to the finish line to see how all the elements are going to come together to be able to fit together. Um, Ani says, yes, there's a moral code. I'm having to remove fallen Saturn archetypes via this transit. Spot on. There you go. And Ani also says, Saturn is also my time lord. So this isn't
Oh,
playtime. No place for shenanigans, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, and I think that's the thing too. Like Aries is really like energetic and vivacious, and there is kind of like a, it's like to me, like Arieses that I know are always like, oh my gosh, I've just discovered this thing. It's so fun and you're gonna love it. Like, and it's that kind of like really exuberant, really energetic, like just leading with the head and the heart, like just full speed ahead. And then with Saturn, like it's not playtime. That's such a great point. I like that.
Yeah. And that's where some of the qualities of like binding come in,
Mhm.
right? Saturn says, you kind of have to do this. There's not really a choice. It's not, you're not doing this because it's enjoyable. You're doing this because it's your responsibility. And that's just really interesting in the sky right now because we have Saturn moving through that decan and it's going to retrograde in that decan.
Ooh.
So in a few weeks, really, like maybe about a month and a half or so, it's going to retrograde in that decan. So a lot of the things that we might be trying to put into place will be up for review for the second half of 2026. The things that we've started, the things that we've initiated. One cool thing about that, though, that I think is actually somewhat fascinating is sometimes there is a theory that I've kind of been kicking around with some other astrologer friends where a fallen retrograde planet in Eastern astrology, in Jyotish, or a Vedic form of astrology, right? They would sometimes consider it acting as its opposite and in an exalted sort of form.
It's like the triple reverso, like double reverse flip.
Right. So oftentimes a retrograde will take back something that's given. Like let's say that you're dealing with a really difficult time establishing yourself with Saturn and Aries. Let's say that you actually receive some help from a partner or from a partnership when Saturn retrogrades in Aries because it says, well, it's not, you don't have to do this specific way. Like I know last summer, my daughter's TikTok kind of blew up when Saturn station retrograde in Aries, and it started acting like she's a Capricorn sun, Tanya's a Capricorn rising, and it was like via our relationship with her, both of our businesses got a lot more attention. The reason she blew up in the first place was she made a video saying, I was raised in a witchy kind of household, like a cult type
Raised
household.
by witches.
Right. And it was via her story about our relationship that she individuated. So that to me is really fascinating. Is that's something to look out for when Saturn is retrograding. Ani says, true, I'm exhausted having to endure during a Saturn opposition. Yeah, it's a lot.
Exhaustion is such a great kind of keyword for Saturn in Aries because Aries is like so intense and demanding, and that energy is just like you're like tied to it. So it's just like you're being like dragged along by this like out of control like energy, and it's just you don't have a choice. You're going. And I think it's interesting too where it's like when you think about that possible reversal, to me I think of Saturn also as bringing kind of like stress tests of like structures. And so when you think about how your Saturn return happens and what the experience is like of that, where Saturn is kind of coming back to this particular place and looking at what you've built and how it's all kind of coming together, and whether it's going to withstand those pressures, whether it's going to withstand like the buffeting. And I think that buffeting is going to be pretty intense because of the Aries placement, but it may also be like really illuminating in a way. Like sometimes seeing what's going wrong or how the structures that you're making, you built them too fast or you didn't have enough information. And then you get a chance to kind of like come back and like revisit it, or the flaws are revealed, and that can be hard, but it can also be really helpful. And I think we're going to get some of that too, especially as Mercury is going to go retrograde soon as well. Yeah.
Yeah, we got Mercury retrograding in the third 10-degree section of Cancer coming up. So that was something I was thinking about earlier today when Venus was moving towards Jupiter, making a conjunction. But what the good fortune that comes through that, there might be some there might be some something that it needs to be reviewed from that good fortune, right? Something that is like, okay, you might have to do something different. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I can see how the vertical
we're
version,
like
like I could see how there would be sort of this challenge around maybe you think that there's something really good in your life. Like that decan is related to luxurious tastes. Like that, like you, to me, that's like you really want something. It's very expensive.
This is the third.
This is the third 10 degree section of Cancer.
Okay. Yep.
And you want something, but it's like very expensive and you think you have enough. And then Mercury retrogrades in that area. And it's like, hey, maybe there's some other expense you didn't think about. Maybe it gets more expensive than you anticipated. Tanya was also talking about today too. She was thinking about doing an election for Mercury in Cancer 2, which is the decan that's ruled by Mercury, the walled garden, right? And
would be nice.
Yeah, and but then she was looking at it and was like, Mercury is going to retrograde before it conjoins Jupiter.
Yeah.
Which is called
reformation or revoking, I think.
Yeah.
And in kind of the astrological magic, like that's actually a very serious affliction, because it's like you think you're heading towards something good, but it's going to get kind of like snatched away at the last minute, or like something about it will like turn around, or it'll never come to completion. Like it'll never, reach that like fulfillment. And so like we're going to have this really like juicy, gorgeous Jupiter and Venus conjunction. And so it's just like the vibes are going to just be so good. And like, Mercury's going to be there, and it's going to feel like everything's like moving really like nicely in this way. And you may be talking about things or making plans or kind of having a lot of ideas about something. And then, Venus dips out of Cancer and Mercury retrogrades, and it's like, everybody's kind of like leaving the party, like Venus is out, Jupiter's out, and then Cancer's there kind of, or Mercury is there just kind of like going backwards and looking over, what's left and what actually still makes sense in this particular arena. So really, like, it's an important time to keep an eye on the section of your chart that's ruled by Cancer.
We're getting very intimate today on Spencer Michaud Astrology. We're trying to work through all the different like camera angles and like mobile, things. Like we were originally planning on having separate studios, but there was just some technical challenges that made it so that we were like, we just have to sit next to each other and do this in one shot.
Sometimes you're forced into together.
It's a good thing you brushed your teeth today. There you go.
Let's brush my teeth.
I know. I'm just kidding. So Ani says cooperation and help with Saturn goes retrograde. One can only hope. Yes, and that I honestly think that the second half of 2026 has some really nice. I don't know if nice is the right word. Nice is not the right word. Some really powerful astrology for remediating some of the things that we are going through right now, especially when it comes to authoritarianism. Like, so a couple of things really important for the second half of 2026. Like I'll just kind of list them out. Saturn retrograde in Aries. If you think about Saturn in Aries, oftentimes Saturn will talk about like leadership qualities. And right now, the leadership qualities and the laws that are being created, many of them are in service of a very small handful of people, right? They are at the whims of the individual creating the laws, not necessarily in service of the people that they're supposed to be representing. Now that could change with Saturn retrograding in Aries. A lot of those draconian laws could be taken back, and they might be found illegal or unlawful, and that returns some of the power to the people. That's also echoed in Pluto going out of bounds in the southern declination in the summer. These happen relatively within a week or two of each other. Like the end of July, we've got Saturn retrograding and Pluto going out of bounds all the way. Both of these are all the way until December the 10th. Like that day, like I think both of them, like Pluto goes back in bounds and Saturn stations direct. So that's like 6 months of that Saturn retrograde, it like maybe acting exalted, and Pluto out of bounds in its southern declination, which traditionally was associated with returning power back to the masses rather than the consolidation of power to like oligarchs or like autocrats or something like that.
Little handful,
So
the tippy top of the pyramid.
so that to me is, yeah, that's really fascinating. And additionally, you will have Venus and Jupiter moving into Leo, opposing Pluto. So think about that energy of like the centralized forces of Leo coming right into conflict with the Pluto in Aquarius, the humanity, with the masses, things of that nature. Also, that's not all. That's not all.
But wait,
wait,
there's more.
There's more. There is an eclipse in Leo, right? At the end of August, mid-August, actually, beginning of August, mid-August.
Grunking up my hope for Leo elections. Pissed.
Additionally, the nodes are going to be moving from Pisces and Virgo to the north node moving into Aquarius and the south node moving into Leo. So the south node would often represent reduction, things losing energy, losing power, kings losing power. The Leo and the Sun were often traditionally associated with kings. So like very powerful centralized leaders losing their grip on their, I don't know, autocracy, kleptocracy, whatever you want to call it, and the increase of the power of the masses. Now, that has a caveat though. Aquarius isn't sunshine, rainbows, and like, it's not what hair made it sound like.
Harmony and understanding.
Yeah, the difficulty about that could be that it also could increase the ability of people in power. Two things: surveillance state type technology, right, where the all-seeing eye of Sauron or Palantir type of thing is increased in its ability, but also the ability to craft a narrative and censorship. Like censorship is actually very Aquarian. This is something I learned in Joy Usher's book, A Tiny Universe, is what Saturn in Aquarius does is it says it's instead of creating a wall, a physical wall that people are prisoners inside of, it creates a glass ceiling that says you might as well not even try like to do this thing. Like, do you see what I'm saying with that? And it casts other narratives into shadow and only props up one particular narrative. There's also the danger of homogenization. The ability to be a unique individual is reduced when the South Node's in Leo, and the increased desire or the increased push towards homogenization happens with the North Node in Aquarius as well.
Think about how that would apply to kind of the spread of like AI and like data centers and things like that, where the way that so many of the large language models actually even function is just having huge, like almost incomprehensible amounts of data, and then generating these averages and these homogenizations and this kind of like slop that's just like smoothed out and kind of like the average of all these things, like the next best guess. And then it becomes these very uniform, very kind of like derivative, smoothed out things in a way.
Ani's saying, I'll lean into that potential during the retrograde, right? Fallen weak Saturn, nonsense falling apart, good riddance. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe the structures that are not, I mean, there's so many like sclerotic and like old and decrepit, like things that are decaying, like things that should be gone. And sometimes that has to fall away. And I think that that actually is one of the things that Saturn can do. Like Saturn can be kind of good at like, now, like this thing is over and it's time for it to start to like crumble the rest of the way and like, you know, kind of go back into the system.
I think the other thing to think about with that too is Saturn still has to complete its journey through Aries. So this retrograde period from like late July to early December might actually be some time to get some Saturnine things done in a way that could be more sustainable potentially. I don't know if that is how I would think about it, but in a way that could be utilizing some better Saturnine energy than what would normally be happening with its in its fall and direct. Ani says, didn't have that good intel. Thanks, Neptune. There you go.
Yeah, no, Neptune is giving us all the just, revocation, reformation.
Yep, similar,
yeah, exactly.
Like, different terms for a similar technique.
Yeah. definitely. But that's what it's referring to for sure.
Ani says, I'm getting ready for Mercury to not keep his promise. Well, yeah, that's a we'll see. Yeah, that's something to keep in mind, is that I don't know if it's not necessarily just not keeping the promise. I think it's that there more information is needed to be able to do what could be the positive thing that is revealed to us with Venus and Jupiter conjoining at the similar degrees. You might just have to go through more information first. I think that's often what I think about with Mercury retrograde.
And communication. I think it may be that like the Venus and Jupiter of it all is like there's this beautiful idea or like this potential that gets seeded, and then with Mercury, you got to talk it through. You got to talk to your constituents. You got to talk to your neighbors. You got to find ways to connect with people and be like, all right, now how do we actually do this? Like doing the work of like really talking it through. And I feel like a lot of that energy has been laid too with this Gemini season. I don't know about people out there, but oh my gosh, like we've just been like going around and like traveling and talking and connecting and getting messages and like fixing things, and you know, and it's just like everything, like one thing becomes two, and so just this proliferation of like communication and ideas and connections.
Mercury's out of bounds right now too.
Whoa,
so
it's so much.
It's a little overwhelming for like somewhat of introverted people such as ourselves. So we're a little bit exhausted.
House over here.
Like, yeah.
I got that hermit software.
Ani says, renege energy in my neighborhood. Cancer, I see third. Ooh. There you go.
Yeah. So just keep those lines of communication open with your neighbors.
Right.
Like, and you know, that's another thing that we've been experiencing is just
a lot of neighbor drama.
Yeah. Just like that kind of energy of like what's happening near you, like you're talking and stuff's happening, you know, and it's just that boop, 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 the bees flying around.
Stella says, yay, Tanya's here today. Tanya is here today. For those of you who are just stopping in, this is my beautiful partner, Tanja Andrews of Third Coast Mojo, that I refer to in the beginning of the channel show type things.
I'm a real person. I'm not like his girlfriend who lives in Canada, so you just can't see her right now.
She's a real person. She's in the room with me here now. We had 2 studios set up in the house, and then the other studio just was experiencing technical difficulties, so we're cramming together in the one microphone.
We're doing the Siamese twins.
Yeah, we're
conjoined. The twins are conjoined twins
today. It's very Gemini season. So you've got 2 instead of 1 today. And but my animal for the day, not for Gemini season, but for my own personal animal, was the chimera. So we're like chimeraing our knowledge together today. But that is an advantage though, because if you have questions on astrological magic, if you have questions that you think Tanya might have some expertise around with their Third Coast Mojo stuff, if you have remediation questions for your chart, she is very good at those types of things. If there's something in your chart that you're really struggling with, and you think that astrologically elected materia could be helpful for that, she's really the person to talk to with that. Ani says, Jupiter, Venus, Leo opposite Pluto, potential justice for women exposing corruption. I can see that, right? Stella says, slop indeed. So much slop right now. It's just
slop world.
And Michigan, the state that we live in, is really under fire right now with data centers. We've got multiple data center projects that are kind of in various states of completion,
struggle,
and it's really frustrating because we have a governor that we thought was like kind of, I don't know,
for the people,
right? Yeah, like they did a lot of things that were very, I guess, progressive and like were for service to the people, but she's kind of sold out our constituency with the data centers, and it's really frustrating for people like us who live in the state, trusted her with our vote, and now she's kind of selling out to the large tech companies and just driving these projects through, even though people in the community are showing up in mass and saying, we do not want this. No, yeah. We don't want these. We don't want the environmental impact. We don't want the noise. We don't want the destruction of farmland and forest and water usage. We don't want these things, but there's so much money and power behind these things that they're just kind of doing it anyway. And they're like doing it, and they're like apologize later, and it's too late, you know.
And also sometimes when people are trying to fight back, like when communities are coming out and being like, no, we absolutely don't want this, they're getting sued. And it's like, oh, well, now like is this like little township gonna like bankrupt itself trying to like sue like open AI or like something? And it's like,
Yeah, we just had a photo op with Gretchen Whitmer with Sam Altman of like OpenAI in a
so
community
gross,
that's like
so
10
gross.
minutes, 10 miles, 10 minutes from our
Yeah.
house, you know, and it's just like, it's barf inducing. It's nauseating. Let's see. Angela's here. Says hello. Nice to see you together. Thanks for this live. Not sure how long I can stay, but I will catch up when available on your channel. Appreciate you, Angela. Thank you for being here today. Yeah, we're just here to answer questions, talk a little bit of things Gemini season. So yeah, if you got anything that you want addressed in the chat, let us know. Ani says, don't get me started on AI slop. It has uses, but this isn't what I had in mind. I don't think this is what anybody had in mind for the most part, except for the tech billionaires that want to profit off of the people's, I don't know,
Everything.
ability to be distracted by cat videos, like, or things like that, right?
Can't enjoy a cat video anymore.
I mean, I enjoy like a cat dancing every once in a while, but I don't enjoy a cat dancing at the expense of fresh water or at the expense of, like, you know, my peace or the planet being habitable long term. You know what I mean? I can imagine what a cat looks like when it's dancing without necessarily needing to see it. Ani says Mercury refraining seems like he has some to investigate more. Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
I agree.
exactly.
Stella says I have the Hermit software too. Yeah, a lot of people I think that tune into the channel are maybe a little bit more hermetic, I guess you could say, like have a little bit more, I don't know, retiring dispositions. We're not super loud on the channel.
Introspective.
We don't have huge like hot takes necessarily, although I've been pretty vocal about not supporting AI for the last year or so, I guess, since I learned how damaging it can be. Ronnie says he's not locked in the basement making potions. There you go. She's not locked in the basement making potions. That's right. There you go.
That's right. I'm out and about.
Corinne is here. What's up, Corinne? Says hi, Spencer and Tanya. Nice to see you, Corinne. Hope everything's well your way, my friend. Ani says the data centers are ruining the air and water quality, so I am moving on. Corrupt AF in Utah. Oh, are you out in Utah? Man, yeah, the Utah one is wild.
Crazy.
That one's like, the crazy thing about that's like over 100 football fields or something like that worth. It's like the size of Manhattan. Think about that. It raises like the nighttime temperature like 28 degrees or some bullshit like that. It's wild how crazy that is. And no one's saying that there can't be like little like computing data things that are, the data centers we have now are like the size of like a middle school basement. That's not as destructive as these mega centers that they're trying to put in place, right?
Yeah, there'll be like 60 Walmarts or something.
Scarlett is here, says, I'm in Utah, and Kevin O'Leary has been awful trying to push the giant data centers in Box Elder County. Thankfully, the people have pushed back enough to delay it for now. That's
exciting.
Data center, yep. So that's sort of where we're at in Michigan, where some of them have been delayed, but others, they've already broken ground and they've already like started doing stuff. And there was a moratorium on, I think, some data centers in Michigan for like a year, but this is the opportunity for the people to kind of like really like push back against these things, I think, in a lot of ways.
And keep an eye on it. A lot of it is like, again, it's
bait
that kind
and
of like,
switch.
well, and it's that agreement that's not truthful, where it's like, oh, like it's going to be like energy independent and we're going to put more into the grid and it's going to be fine and it's not going to be loud. But then you have like Erin Brockovich opening up that, and maybe to me, like that's like that kind of feminine defender energy where she set up a website where people could document what's happening in their communities once the data centers do start operating, and people are reporting all the same things. They're reporting, it's noisy all the time, like, there's weird, it's bright, the water is getting dirty, the air is bad, there's problems. And it's like it all gets kind of like glossed over, and so there's this beautiful story that's getting spun right now about, oh, it's not going to be a problem and it's going to create all these jobs, and the truth is quite different.
I mean, and just this will be kind of like the last sort of thing I'll say about this, and it's being used to create surveillance. I mean, this is really the long and the short of it. A lot of it is being used to just track our every single movement, whether it's through cameras or just through tracking our movements across the internet. That computing power is being directed towards controlling people. And that's something I think a lot of people need to really understand about that is these these tech billionaires want to be able to manipulate the way that you think, right? They want to atrophy the way that you think so you become dependent on those services and then have to pay the fee like a utility to be able to think. And that's something that as independent thinkers we are horrified at. So I think that that's something to consider with that beyond all of the other issues is the way that it can atrophy our ability to think for ourselves. Okay, what else you got going on, friends? What else is going on here? So we've got the sun in Gemini. This Gemini 2 is where there's sort of these irreconcilable differences where we have that nightmare card where we're staying up at night, having some sleepless nights potentially.
Got that.
Venus going back in bounds finally on the 7th. So a couple days, we've got Venus back in bounds. Venus has been out of bounds since like early May, around that period of time.
Getting weird with it.
Venus was out of bounds from May 4th to June 7th. I think that that's interesting because there might be different relationships like that you don't normally see. Like, look, you see Tanya and I together on a broadcast here. That's not normal. That's Venus out of bounds. Venus is the ruler of my 10th house. So the ruler of like my public facing persona. So it's just a little bit different. It just means that there is like something that is a little bit unusual about our Venusian qualities. I would say that the other thing is when Venus goes back in bounds, you might feel a little bit more comfortable or confident with committing to something that you either are attracted to or like if you're like designing something. When Venus is out of bounds, it could lead to a design quality that when Venus is back in bounds, you could look up and be like, what did I just do here? What did I commit to? Why am I wearing a traffic cone instead of like the normal muted colors that I
put like 2 traffic cones like on your chest? But I think it could also be there's that element too of it where it's like sometimes you see artists who are really unconventional who have Venus out of bounds and they're kind of notable for that kind of like shocking quality where it's like, oh, like that's so weird but it's hot, or like it's exciting. And so sometimes I think Venus out of bounds can be that like unusual flavor. It's like, and it's like, oh, maybe I'm gonna put a little bit of like miso in my like butter that I put on my popcorn. That's like, it's crazy, but like, let's just get crazy with
and
it.
It's not all bad. It's not all bad. Like,
try a new taste. Put on that different color.
So Ani was completing some thoughts. Says the mainstream narrative is claiming that this is necessary to compete with China. Manufactured consent.
Oh yeah,
no time to panic in an existential crisis. Right. Just have to be clear-headed. This is something I preach a lot on the channel. How do we become, centered when we do all these types of things? Ani, thanks for your chats and ideas today. Appreciate you. Hope you have a wonderful Friday afternoon, friend. Kate's here, says, for out of bounds, I always think of untethered. That's really good. That's a good way of thinking about it, Kate, because really the out of bounds, the technical understanding of it is that, oh, thank you so much for the super sticker, Ani, today.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, friend. Thank you for your both your intellectual contributions and your material ones. Appreciate you. So with the out of bounds untethered, the way you calculate something out of bounds is when a planet is moving outside of the normal declination path of the sun. So that's the relationship of the sun above or below the ecliptic line, that kind of imaginary line that all the planets are moving in relationship to across the sky. Like the declination is very far above the ecliptic when we're at the summer solstice. It's very far below the ecliptic, the sun is, at noon, okay, to be technical, when we are going to the winter solstice. Those planets usually stay within the same range of declination that the sun is going through. Like I think it's 23 degrees and 26 minutes above or below the ecliptic. Sometimes these planets will be like sort of untethered, like Kate is saying, from the normal path of the sun, and then they're acting on kind of their own volition, and to sometimes with a concentrated, sometimes extreme part of what they're doing. So it's not necessarily bad. It just means that it's not the most socially acceptable thing. Like when we have it tethered to the sun, there is a social acceptance that comes with it. So like we've talked about artists like Bjork, right, that have Venus out of bounds, where she doesn't give a rat's ass what people like or not. Like she does what she likes and what the muse is inspiring her to do. Same thing with Mercury out of bounds. We may say things or we may communicate in ways that are different than we normally would, and for better or for worse. Like it's not like a good or a bad thing. Like you can communicate something that's not socially acceptable and it can get you in trouble. Or you can communicate something that you wouldn't normally communicate, and it can be a light bulb moment that moves you forward. So, not necessarily judgment, but
I mean, it's that kind of like those planets are definitely dancing like nobody's watching.
yeah, it's true. Yeah, thank you, Ani. Appreciate you. Okay, so Venus back in bounds on the 7th. So the other thing about that is sometimes we start relationships with people that are maybe the thing that comes to mind are like May December romances or something where you're falling in love with someone you wouldn't normally be attracted to.
So you're someone from a house that your parents are at war with.
Yeah, like a Capulet and what is it, like
Montague.
Montague and Capulet kind of thing.
Romeo and Juliet.
And then when Venus goes back in bounds, this makes me worried about my daughter. She
Oh
no, I mean more so she just recently picked out a dress for her wedding.
She's thinking about it.
Oh, okay, okay, good.
We're in the brainstorming.
But like, let's say you're committing to a very expensive dress for a wedding.
Metaphoric. This is an example. This is
right?
a hypothetical.
Hypothetically, and then you have to like figure out after when Venus goes back in bounds, maybe your tastes change, and you're like, that wasn't exactly what I was thinking. You know what I'm saying? So there's things like that. Gemini fire. Hey, what's up? How you doing, Julene? Nice to see you, friend. Says, how are you guys? Listening at work for a bit. Data centers promoted me. We have one of the largest here in Arizona and more on the way, as if we need it hotter here, and water bills crazy increase. I mean, that's one of the things that people are really most frightened about is the environmental impact. Like places like Arizona are already struggling with water challenges. And having to like pump in water from different areas. I don't know if it's like from California or something like that. But those data centers, even though they advertise closed loop systems, sometimes they'll be like, oh, it's not using all the water, it's closed loop. Well, those closed loop systems actually create PFAS, right? Like they use chemicals that go back into the water system. There's like really destructive, almost like plastics that get put into the water system, even if it's a closed loop system. So, and yes, the big mega data centers that they're trying to put into these desert communities like Utah and Arizona, they raise the temperature of those places by multiple degrees. And that is very destructive, not to mention the noise that they make that disrupt wildlife and disrupt human beings and things of that nature.
Here, one thought that I'm having just kind of as we're thinking about this, the idea of like an infinite supply of like water and space. And you think about that kind of like Jupiter in Cancer, where it's like, oh, like we'll have plenty of water. Like it's fine. We go where the clean water is and like everything's great. But then we're going to have both benefics kind of like pop off into Leo. And I think that this year we're really going to see a lot of heat. And so like a lot of things where it's like that expansiveness is going to move out of like this nurturing watery energy into this like kind of more almost fiery energy. And so we may see a lot of like heat and a lot of kind of like temperature changes, drought. I really worry because I think we're going into like an El Nino type year, which can be really, really hot, really volatile. And I think we may see more of that, especially as some of the benefics change signs.
It's been really dry here the last few weeks too, and just in our area. But I think with the benefics and fire signs and more of the planets moving into fire signs, that drought possibility is definitely something on the radar, right? Okay. Julene, appreciate you being here, friend. Hope everything's going well your way and that you and your son are doing well, your grandson, and that he's staying healthy and he's a football player. So stay hydrated during mini camps and like summer camps.
Everybody stay hydrated.
Drink
right
extra water, right? I think it's got to be. I can't, man. I'm just thinking about playing football in Arizona. It's just like, holy cow, that's yeah, that's crazy. Well, we've talked about that in the past, friend. But sending good vibes over to you. Stella says, and K2 moving into Leo will be co-present with Jupiter's triplicity through Leo this time. Yeah, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the reduction quality, right? The reduction of, I don't know, physicality through the element of fire is really like interesting to me too. Sergey is here. Says, hi everyone. Looking forward to checking out what I have missed. We've just been talking about the kind of the astrology that's been going on. We've been working out some of the technical challenges in the beginning. So we've been talking about Third Coast Mojo and some of Tanya's remediary planetary elected materia. So if you have questions on like remediation in your chart, if there's a planet that you're struggling with, or if there's a planet that you're struggling with in the sky, you've got kind of an astrological magic expert here and a materia making machine or magician. Maybe not a machine. Maybe we're trying to move away from machines.
I mean, I have been this month.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been woo.
You've been making lots of stuff. So there's lots of cool things coming in Third Coast Mojo too. There was a few Mercury elections that were done with Mercury and Gemini. You've got a bunch of stuff that isn't even listed right now from Jupiter and Cancer still. You've got a bunch of Venus and Libra stuff.
There's more stuff coming.
It's just
you guys are gonna like it. It's fun.
And she's like a one-woman army, so it is just like I'm like a one-person doing these
one-man band.
So sometimes it takes us a little bit longer since we're not really hiring out a lot of the labor. We're doing it ourselves. Kate says, to have the conjunction and square relationship to Saturn, there's metaphorical calcification of the sweetness that isn't easy. Have the conjunction.
So the Cancer to...
Oh, yes. Aries. Yes. Okay, so if we go back to the chart, let's bring that back up here. See where we're at. Let's see if we can figure this out. Let's make it big. I'm just checking all the different...
That's probably...
There it is. Okay. So what Kate's talking about is the Venus-Jupiter conjunction in the third 10-degree section of Cancer. And we have Saturn in the overcoming square to that. So we really would love to do something with our resources. That decan is related to balancing out scarcity versus surplus. So we might be wanting to be generous with our resources, but maybe there's something in the back of our mind saying we have to really be a little bit conservative with our resources right now because of the greater circumstances that we're dealing with. That there might be a little bit of challenging in the collective where we might not be able to get everything that we need, or maybe the money's not coming when we thought it would.
What's the card with that decan?
With
Which one are you talking about?
So I'm talking about the Venus-Jupiter conjunction in Cancer 3, which is the Four of Cups kind of energy, where someone is refusing more. They've gotten most of their material needs met, and now they're looking for and searching for a higher purpose, or searching for some kind of spiritual direction rather than just a physical one. And when you have your own physical needs met, what do you do with the excess? Do you share your abundance with others? Those are a lot of the questions that come. If you haven't gotten your physical needs met, how do you get those things met? There's the diamond in that is Hecate. Oh. So think about like the ability. Talk more about Hecate, Tanya.
So kind of crossroads goddess, very intense, very associated with kind of protective energies. Definitely not to be trifled with, just this real kind of focus on like justice and kind of like the feminine, witches, magic, kind of the shunned, like dog, like a dog, like things like that. And, so that's interesting. I think with that too, there's probably an element of like overwhelm even, where it's like more is more. And so it's like the cups just keep kind of coming, and it's like, what are we doing here? And then you have that energy of Saturn kind of like riding up behind it and firing the Tommy gun. And so there's definitely something structural that can hinder the kind of like unfolding of that goodness there.
I mean, Hecate is also known as like a triple goddess.
Oh, yes.
So there is like the maiden, the mother, and the crone type of energy. So there is the birth, the growth, the
Mm-hmm.
fruition of the full moon type of experience. It's a lunar decan.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have like the receding quality, the disseminating quality, where the light is waning. So
Mm-hmm.
there is the birth, life, and death quality with that too. So all of those things are infused
Mm-hmm.
into that decan.
Yeah, there's
Um,
never infinite growth.
Right, exactly. Learning about the cycles of growth, not just the exponential growth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we really struggle with as a society right now is accepting the death phase. You know, we don't accept the time that we need to rest. We don't accept hibernation, especially like some of the people that are running things right now with all the excess, you know, like they're obsessed with number go up. I've been reading a lot from a guy named Matt Stoller this morning about this guy who runs basically TCI, Comcast, and things like that, like in his methods, and he was obsessed with financial efficiency and number go up at the expense of everything human in his life, and it
It's
was
giving Midas.
yeah, it was really crazy. And now he's realizing that at like the end of his life in his mid 80s, he's like, I wish I'd spent more time with my family. I wish I hadn't done all these things. And it's
Yeah,
like,
sucks to
yeah,
suck.
it's like
Like,
too late now, asshole. Like, give away your fortune, and
yeah,
you
right.
know, like that's, I don't know. Sergey says, "Oh, I love planetary magic." Tanya, what would you recommend for people who have really dignified malefics? Lean in or back off? That's a great question.
Mm.
Okay, so
I,
let's go zoom out for a minute while we answer that.
yeah, I like that a lot. So I would say lean in, but also lean into kind of a practice that keeps you grounded morally. So have like, have your kind of values really clear cut and then do lean in because sometimes you can get a lot done when you have like a really good Mars. Like a really good Mars is just like a dynamo, like it powers you, it's a generator. And so that can be something that can really kind of carry you through in some other ways. And you just have to kind of like balance it with something benefic. So like I would say definitely like lean in, like especially when you have strengths in your chart like that can be so potent. So nourish yourself and kind of when I see things like that, like if they're very dignified, like if they're exalted, so if they're not in their own domicile necessarily, you could also consider kind of feeding the hosting planet. So say you have like Mars and Capricorn, for example. This is just a guess. I don't know your chart, Sergey, but you could use something to kind of provide good Saturn energy to kind of like help that kind of go along. So you're providing that structure and that kind of firm boundaries and that foundation for that Mars to really shine. And then whenever you're working with the malefics, there is always that kind of shadow side. But I think there's a shadow side to all of the planets because there's a shadow side in a way to the benefics as well, which is like too much of a good thing is overindulgent. Like too much Venus is like, you're getting
Which is good
kind of like
advice
in
for a Venus Jupiter conjunction in
yeah,
Cancer,
yeah.
also, is there can be too much of a good thing there.
Mm-hmm.
Too much moisture, you know, like can lead to rot.
You don't want your basement to get too damp.
That sounded very suggestive, Tanya.
So I'm just talking about maintaining the structure of your house. Get
Okay.
your head out of the gutter.
um, I will add to that, Sergey, that maybe it also depends on what sect that the malefic planets are in, because an insect malefic, okay, like sect, we're talking about the relationship to the sun and the moon. In traditional astrology, people have planets based on where the sun is, above or below the horizon. The planets are of a solar or a lunar kind of political team, right? This the solar planets are the sun, Saturn, Jupiter, sometimes Mercury, depending on where it is. The lunar planets are the moon,
Mercury goes
Mars,
both ways.
Venus, right? Sometimes Mercury, depending on whether it's rising above or after the sun, before or after the sun. Um, when you have a dignified malefic that is of the sect, this is something that Robert Schmidt would talk about in his lectures. Oftentimes you will benefit. It acts as a functional benefic. But sometimes what happens is you will receive benefit at someone else's expense. So, like, let's say you have a dignified Mars in Scorpio in the second. This is just a insect, and it's in the second. you might have money that comes to you, second house, but it comes through someone else's death or someone else's accident, or it comes through something where someone else had to lose something for you to gain it, right? Uh, Similarly with Saturn, if you have a dignified Saturn somewhere, sometimes you might benefit through someone else's longer term suffering potentially. Or, like, let's say it's Saturn in Libra, for example. You might benefit through a court case or like some kind of justice working that is in your favor, right? Um, so it really does depend. I think Tanya works both increasing and leaning into malefic things, but also she does workings where she leans into the opposite energy or the opposite planet. Like, let's say we have Mars, for example. You could lean into Venusian qualities, right? You could, if you have a Saturn type of thing, you could lean into solar energy, and vice versa. If it's Mercury, you could lean into Jupiterian things. If you have a messed up Jupiter, you could lean into mercurial types of things. So all of those things can be something to look at. Oh, thank you so much, Julene, for the super chat. Very generous. Thank you so much, friend. Appreciate you. And we got a nice, yeah. Oh, hold on a second. I'm gonna come back to you, Kate. We had a Julene says we are good. I owe you an email update. He's gonna be playing in Colorado for college. That's cool.
Congrats.
Maybe it's a little cooler there, hopefully, right? Okay, but that's awesome. Thank you so much for the super chat today, Julene. Appreciate you. Kate says talking about benefics, right?
Yeah.
Just thinking Aries and blood, Cancer in the body, absolutely. One is very like aggressive, the other is very maybe somewhat passive or pacifistic, I guess, on some level. So balancing those two things out could be difficult. Kate says an overabundance leading to maybe a need for consolidation. Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, we're definitely in a period where there's a lot of energy of kind of like proliferation and growth, and like that can feel kind of out of control. And sometimes when you're in that place, there is going to be a need to kind of scale it back.
Is the weather getting funky outside? I don't know. We have some storms coming this weekend, potentially. We have our neighborhood garage sale tomorrow, which is usually a really awesome event. Yeah, where you get to meet your neighbors that you don't get to see all year. It's like it's a big neighborhood garage sale. Like there's probably like 30 garage sales going on simultaneously, and you get to see all your neighbors and talk to them, and sometimes the people that are just hiding
their trash they want to get rid of. I love it. Live for it.
But this year there's like really severe weather on the forecast, and that might put a damper on it a little bit. Kate says it sucks to suck. There you go. Kate says I love the emphasis on morals and integrity for this. Very Jupiter Saturn. Okay, yeah, absolutely. We have to always think about whether something should be done. You know, this is something we talk about a lot on the channel. Whether it can be done is one question. Whether it should be done is a completely other one. Corinne says, I have a crazy Venus out of bounds story that I'll share in class. Thankfully, not about me. I'd love to hear that. Corinne's one of our Deccan walkers. If you want to share it on here, you can. But you don't have to.
Yeah, Venus out of bounds.
Out of bounds? That's crazy. Yeah. Kate says, this is a great moment to get a feel on the subjective nature of malefic versus benefic in personal life between the malefics joined in Aries and this conjunction in Cancer. That's a good point, Kate, too, because sometimes when we're dealing with two planets that are really in good shape, like Venus and Jupiter are right now for the most part, and then you have two planets that are really not in good shape, like Mars and Saturn, one area of our life could be really going very well, but another area could be really difficult. This is the nuance that comes with understanding that there's lots of different experiences we're having on the day-to-day. And we could be really struggling in one area of our life while something else is just going really well. That's why we don't want to think completely in just black and white terms or like in extremes, because lean into the good parts of your life. Like maybe try to mitigate some of the more challenging parts of your life, whether it's through just not focusing as much on that or through like astrologically elected materia or something like that, and lean into the good stuff. Like we've been really busy lately talking to a lot of people, but for the most part, the conversations have been fruitful and they've been nice. There have been a couple things here and there that have been a little bit challenging. We had to be, mediators between a neighbor dispute recently, which was, it turned out okay. but it was exhausting in the moment,
And it
you
was
know?
also like an opportunity to be like, hey, like, how do we do things differently? Like, how
True.
do we want to relate to each other as neighbors and as like
Right.
this little micro community? Like,
Yes.
maybe we don't want to call the cops on people. Like, maybe,
Yeah.
maybe we don't.
Yeah, we had a neighbor that got a little bit upset about another neighbor doing something noisy and things of that nature. And the first response was to like involve the authorities. And we had a long conversation, be like, does that need to be the first response? Have you even talked to this person yet? And the answer was like mostly no. And so we were kind of having that conversation and trying to figure out a solution. There were other issues that were coming up, like there was some conflict with the dogs or something. And sometimes what you have to do is figure out how to solve the actual tangible issue that won't lead to conflict in the future. So like my solution was like, how do we just keep your two dogs from fighting with each other? Because that seemed to be the impetus for feeling like you had to take this to the next level, right? So I think that there's lots of ways to find solutions if we communicate. Like communication is really the key. And sometimes there is things that you can't resolve just face to face, and that's understandable. But at least making the attempt first.
And now is kind of like the time to be doing that because things are kind of like
Get
as
spicy.
positive as they can be
Yeah,
for like the next little bit. We're about to head into some really bumpy astro weather.
spicy.
And like now we still have those like two like good benefics. They're coming together. They're taking care of the areas of your chart that are ruled by, you've got Taurus, you've got Libra, you've got
Mm-hmm.
Sagittarius, you've got Pisces, you've got Cancer, all kind of like being cared for by planets that are in good shape or they have good things happening there. And so that's just like providing a lot of cushion for some of the other stuff that's kind of under the surface, like
Except for Saturn.
except for Saturn.
Saturn
Yeah, Saturn's
Saturn's
just
being hosted by an exiled Mars
yeah,
right now.
Saturn like can't be worse.
Yeah, Saturn's in really rough shape because of its host is also in its exile. So there that and in aversion. So there's some Saturnine challenges. I know for us, since Saturn's moved into Aries, our routines have just gotten like blown to smithereens. Like we were very like routine orientated people, and myself very much so. And since Saturn moved into Aries, like being able to get into the same routine has been really challenging. And maybe we needed that a little bit. Maybe busting up the routine was good on some level, but uh, finding the way to take things from point A to point B completion wise, it has suffered a little bit, I think, with some of these energies. On the flip side, the like good conversations with neighbors, with family members, with domestic things of
A
like
lot of caring.
our garden, like all of those things have been making a lot of really great progress and bringing a lot of nice experiences. So being able to lean into some of those things has helped like mitigate some of the other challenges that we've been going through. So yeah, it's all a mixed bag when it comes to these types of things. Kate says, so generous. I agree. Thank you so much. Thank you, Julene, and thank you, Kate, for being here too. I love all of your insights as well. Sergey says, since we're getting technical, day chart.
All right.
Mars is in domicile
Ooh.
in own terms and face,
Ooh.
in partile conjunction to Jupiter, Saturn exalted in own triplicity face. We'll lean in.
You're probably a beast, man.
Where is Mars in Scorpio? Then I'm assuming, because I'm assuming you would have said that Mars was in opposition to Saturn if it was exalted. But yeah, Mars and Scorpio day chart. I will say, then when Saturn is exalted in a day chart, the balance that you're finding with Saturn. Sergey is a Leo rising, right? I'm pretty sure that we're Leo rising friends here.
All right.
Like your third house could be like really good experiences with people in your local community, with your neighbors, with your siblings, something like that, where you honor your oaths and agreements and you have good contracts with people or something like that. Where you see things justly and fairly between you and your siblings or you and your neighbors, or maybe you have really good daily habits and routines, which is a third house type of experience. And Sergey says, yes, Mars at 2 degrees Scorpio. Now, this is similar to what we were talking about with Mars in fifth house, right? No. Mars would be in the fourth house. Excuse me. I was just kind of trying to see the chart in my head. Mars would be in the fourth house. But a really strong malefic planet in the fourth house could be some difficulty, though, with family, with like parents, with a land of origin, maybe being separated from a land of origin. Maybe there is sorrow associated with that, and uh, sadness about maybe having to leave one place and go to another, but maybe it works out. Do you see what I'm saying? Maybe there was something really traumatic that where you had to leave a space and then you went into somewhere else, and it worked out because the benefic or because the malefic planet is in domicile, but it's still very strong. It's still very potent. Okay. Sometimes it depends too. This is what Schmidt would say too, Sergey, is it depends on what type of house the malefic or the benefic planet is in as to whether it can do good or do ill. So, like, if a very strong malefic planet is in the 12th house or the 6th house, it's probably has the ability to do a lot of damage, right? Rather than to do good, even if it's insect and if it's in its own domicile or something like that. Whereas a benefic planet in one of those difficult houses doesn't have as much of ability to do good out in the world, rather than it would if it was in a good house like the ninth, the 11th, the fifth, etc. Since you have Mars in the fourth, I don't know if that is an angle. So it's going to be very powerful. I don't know if it's necessarily as quote unquote good. I think because it's a square to the ascendant, your personal experience of it may have been difficult. Like your personal experience of your early childhood or something like that there could be a lot of loss involved with that. Maybe a loss of a parent or a loss of connection to a homeland or something like that. So yeah, if you want to fill us in with any of the details, like uh, what's going on?
Well, I was
Oh,
just wanted to jump in real quick. I would say also, but those things probably made you very driven
right.
in some ways. Like those challenging experiences probably, whereas they would like crush or incapacitate other people, instead they galvanized you and made you like
Right.
stronger and more determined. And since you have that Saturn exalted, you definitely could benefit from kind of leaning into some Venusian things that would both kind of nourish and feed that Saturn and help kind of like keep it moving in like a graceful direction, and kind of like counterbalance that Mars, which can be very intense and maybe sometimes harsh, or sometimes kind of uncompromising. I mean, I think that's a thing with Scorpio too. Like Scorpio is so laser focused and so potent. Sometimes you need a little bit of a counterbalancing energy, like maybe a Venus in Taurus or something like that, to kind of like soften it and be like, all right, like I can also see the other side of things sometimes, or I can kind of do this, but also have grace in my heart. You know what I mean?
And that Mars, from those difficult early experiences, potentially could make you very vigilant with your
Mm,
home or
yeah,
with
yeah,
your
yeah.
family,
Opening up. You got
right?
to
You
open
could
up.
be very protective of the people you care about or of
Mm-hmm.
your space or something like that. So there is eventually ways to create, I think, benefit from that. It's just that the malefics, when they're in domicile, they're just very powerful. It doesn't always necessarily mean that there's going to be good things that come from it. And again, Schmidt would say oftentimes a dignified benefic
Benefic or
or
malefic.
malefic planet will act as a functional benefic, but sometimes at the expense of others. So that's something to think about with that. Maybe you've benefited from like something negative happening, right? Um,
And not necessarily something that you
yeah,
did.
it might not have been your
Like that was,
fault.
yeah.
It might have just been circumstance. And again, the Mars energy is one of 2K. All right. So 2K being chance. Because Mars is of the lunar sect, there could be things that we are receiving difficult fortune that is just chance. It's not through something we did, it's just through circumstance. Whereas Saturn, like Saturn, Sergey, I would lean into that Saturn really, because you might be able to
Definitely.
create good fortune in your life, but through, you know, not necessarily difficulty, but through discipline, but through, through being fair and balanced and having good judgment,
Cultivating good structures.
cultivating structure. Exactly. So those are the types of things that you could lean into that might, for a lot of people, could feel like a lot of work, but for you would lead to really good outcomes potentially, depending on other factors in your chart. All right. Kate says some neighbors are dumb though. That's true. We have a few of those. Um, we still love them, but they're a little bit dummy, a
We love
little
we love
bit dum
we love
dums.
we love all the sillies, all our little local gremlins. We love them all.
We live next door to a house that where a lot of people are reintegrating back into society after being incarcerated, and that can lead to some lack of judgment on their part, and that there a lot of them are just on the struggle bus, and for the most part we try to have conversations and get to know them in ways where we can have compassion for their journey. But there are some times where it's a little bit frustrating and where the actions aren't necessarily in alignment with peace in the neighborhood. But everybody's got something, you know what I mean? And I think that everybody needs a place to go to, and I think that having compassion is important for people's journey. Yes.
Yeah, we try.
Stella says, I second the busting up of routines. It's been challenging and feels so much like a lot of progress in the good habits sector has been lost. Yeah, like, so at the beginning of this year, was it the beginning of this year? I don't know. A few months ago, Tanya and I were like doing a lot of research on, how to structure our lives with ADHD. And we had all these wonderful plans.
There were
There were there were
diagrams,
there were
there were
lists,
whiteboards, there was calendars,
whiteboards,
there was time blocking.
and in true ADHD form, it lasted a little while, and then it was hard to sustain that over time. And some of that feels a little bit Saturnian, where we were doing a lot of these new things, and it did help for a period of time, and some of those things stuck, and other things didn't. So how do you kind of come back to things and restart?
And I think that's kind of the energy almost that might be helpful to bring to a lot of this stuff as well, is this energy of like, it's like meditation. Like, you don't meditate to completely empty your mind out. You meditate to get good at observing when your mind strays, and then bring it back without like flipping out or melting down or like berating yourself. And so there's that energy of kind of like continuing to try again, and just being present with the process. And that is kind of like the good side of routine that is just rote. Like, your brain doesn't even know you're doing it anymore, and then maybe you need to change it. Maybe you need to examine it and come back to it from a different perspective.
All right, so let's go through some of these comments here.
Mm.
Yes, Mars at 2 degrees Scorpio, Sergey says. Kate says strong malefics in the fourth. That's how I roll. Right. Kate has
Woo!
some of that energy too. I've seen their chart before. So yeah, you have both malefics there. So
Oh, that's intense.
yeah, so that's a lot. Gives endurance and stamina, just not as much as it crushes your soul. Oh, sorry, Kate. Uh, Reminds me of a T-shirt I had that says "Beatings will continue until morale improves." Oh
That
no.
somehow, like, that has been the phrase lately, where it's just like,
Yeah.
we all kind of are laughing about it, but it's like, oh man, like,
Kate
yes,
says,
that's so real.
Kate says, love these little idiots. It is sort of like raising children sometimes when you have people who are struggling with things around you, and you have to just cultivate patience. Well, honestly, Kate, one of the things that conversations I had with one of my neighbors who was dealing with another neighbor who was has trouble with, I don't know if respect is the right issue, but with empathy for other people's, peace, probably because of his own challenges, being mostly raised for a great portion of his life in incarcerated situations.
Yeah.
And the advice I had for the older neighbor that was having struggles with that other guy was, how do you cultivate your own sense of centeredness and peace that isn't dependent on someone else's actions? How do you how do you arrange your fence so that your dogs aren't arguing, so that you can take back control? How do you put some headphones on so that the noise isn't going to bother you?
What?
And
That sounds so familiar. It
I
sounds
get a
almost
little
like
bit bothered by the noise
almost like
too.
someone else has said that to
I'm
someone in this
working on
very
it.
room.
I'll get there. Um, but in my defense, haven't you noticed I've done a lot better at not being like the get off my lawn guy, right?
It's true. It's true. Spencer, in the last, with this nice Jupiter transit, Spencer has been 42% less get off my lawn.
It's not even that. It's that I realize that the energy I was bringing to the interactions with my neighbors of being just like angry that they were disturbing my peace wasn't actually bringing me the results that I wanted. So how do you take a different tact with that? How do you take back some of your control, and how do you center yourself so that you can bring the peace to the situation rather than having it be dependent on the external circumstances being perfect?
Will you please screenshot this like thing where it's just us and it's like, love these little idiots, and we're like,
Hold on a second. I will. Does it? There we go. There we go. Okay. Does it do it? There we go. Cackling.
Tomfoolery.
My eyes are closed. Let me do one more. Sorry, we're just having some fun here today. This is some Gemini tomfoolery. There we go. Okay. So we've got another comment from Sergey, some clarification. Says, interesting. Actually, the third house where Saturn is had the big tragedy. My only sibling got into drugs and an overdose when he was young.
Oh, no.
Fourth, well, I did move away from Ukraine, and it is better in the United States.
No, that's so much. Oh my gosh.
That's a lot, yeah.
I'm so sorry you went through that. That's terrible.
So I think that is it second decan Saturn? I'm curious on that. Is it close to Vendomatrix, like, which is about 11 degrees of Libra? Because if it's closer to a fixed star that is negative, that could have an impact too. Vendomatrix was called the Widowmaker, and it is a challenging placement for any planet, really, where you might lose something that you were attached to, like a sibling, potentially. The Mars in the fourth and moving away from Ukraine and like having
and the conflict there.
Yeah, and so that feels very much like what we were describing, like moving away, and then maybe your circumstances are a little bit better and not in a space that's not as conflicted. Not to say that Ukraine isn't a wonderful place, I mean, but it's under a lot of stress and pressure right now, right? Yeah, and then Sergey, yeah, so rough, says Kate. Yep. Sergey says, yes, 17 degrees. Share that placement to Putin. Think fixed star there is Cygnus. Cygnus. I'm trying to think about 17 degrees Libra, the fixed stars that are there. But that is the decan. This is associated with the Three of Swords, the Lord of Sorrow, the breaking of a contract, the loss. It's called loss on some level, sorrow, Lord of Sorrow. So a lot of your Saturnine abilities, I guess, or Saturnine significations could be shaped through loss in that decan, right? But I'm going to say, Sergey, that it probably brought something positive out of it, where maybe you have enhanced compassion for other people. Maybe you are able to see things from multiple perspectives that maybe you weren't before you had that experience or something like that.
Maybe you're driven to help people
who
are going through things like that.
Right. You could turn that difficulty into like service to others as well. So there's a lot of different ways that could become a functional benefic. And it may also be when your brother had this experience, or when you had this experience, maybe you had something like Mars conjoining Saturn, a difficult planet in Libra, or a Mars opposition or something like that was putting pressure on that planet that led to a subjectively negative experience. Sergey says, yes, great loss brings great growth. Absolutely. So I do think that one thing to think about, the benefics or the malefic planets are always going to be malefic planets. The way that they function is through the language of loss, of separation, of exile. Okay. Like with a strong Saturn, you could feel exiled from your homeland or something like that. Through casting things into darkness, through accepting of challenging things in life. Maybe those experiences help Sergey to learn about that things aren't always perfect in life, and how to accept the things that he can change and the things that he can't. So that there is all sorts of interesting ways to think about that. I also am curious, is your Saturn retrograde? Because this is another theory that we are thinking through. Because if you have Saturn exalted retrograde, it may be acting like Saturn in its fall. So that's something, at least a data point that could be explaining why the experience could be more negative. But you'll have to confirm or deny that in the chat. Same thing with an exiled, not a fallen Mars. Like, let's say people have Mars in Cancer, but it's retrograde. It could be acting exalted in some way. I was looking at the chart of Aurora, the Gemini musician that we shared a song in the newsletter recently. She has Jupiter in Capricorn on the midheaven. I believe it's on the midheaven, but it's retrograde. So where normally it could be real challenging, it's acting exalted on that midheaven because of the retrograde fallen planet potentially. So that's something I've been really just trying to test. It's a technique from Eastern astrology where a fallen planet can act as its opposite. A fallen planet can act exalted, an exalted planet can act like a planet in its fall. So like if, let's say, Sergey has a retrograde Saturn in Libra, he might be experiencing the pain of having to be an individual rather than be a sibling, like, right, where he's forced to be like an individual rather than to be part of a sibling relationship. That would be more akin to, I think, Saturn and Aries type of experience, being forced to be on your own or independent or something of that nature. So just something to think about. Sergey says, though, my Saturn is direct. The bad in the third could be because of Pluto also in Libra. Okay, third decan. Anyway, I don't want to take up too much airspace with my personal chart. No, this is the time to do so.
No, we're just chatting. We're just yapping.
Yeah, this is the time to ask those questions because really we're kind of going in just whatever direction the muse takes us today. And teaching astrology and kind of answering your questions about your chart or about what's going on in the sky. We were just looking at some aspects of planets in the sky to start the conversation. But yeah, like Pluto conjoining Saturn could definitely like color the energy there. Yeah. I have Pluto in the third decan of Libra as well in the third house. I don't have Saturn there, and my Venus is pretty well positioned in the 11th. So there is to me, what I have learned is I had to transform my relationship to my neighbors. Whereas I would see my neighbors oftentimes as disturbers of my peace or be at odds with them. I had to learn that I had to be the peacemaker. I had to be the one that I had to find peace within myself first and then bring that to the relationships. Now, because Venus in my chart is in a trine to the third house, that third house might be supported. I also, Sergey, that Pluto in the third house, I live next to the most Plutonic set of houses ever, right? Like there is haunted, dark-sided stuff that is going on all around me all the time. But I'm hopefully trying to add some energy of positivity. Here's an example. Here's one for our magic conversation. We had a neighbor that we live in like kind of a student area of Ypsilanti, and our neighbor these houses are like, some of them have multiple units, and our next door neighbor, who is a small landlord who has a couple houses, he's as ethical of a landlord as you can be, like he's a really nice guy, and he really takes good care of his apartments and really does go above and beyond to be of service to the people that he is renting that space to. He was asking us about, I was just having a conversation with him while he was renovating one of his spaces. Someone had moved out. He was having a lot of difficulty getting some new client in, or new tenant into a couple of his spaces. He only has 2 houses, but multiple units were unrented. He off the shelf, he takes down what looks like, on a little tray, a little coffin surrounded with salt and like filled with like burned like herbs and stuff. And we're like, and we were there, and I'm like, that's a curse, man. You probably don't want to touch that. And and we were like, we can get rid of that for you. So we took it to a
Yeah,
crossroads
like a
space,
dumpster
a
at the
dumpster at a
crossroads.
crossroads. We got rid of it. We took some of our like energetic cleansing Florida water that Tanya makes,
I
which
I have some elected Florida water that I
right.
made during a Venus and Libra
Mm-hmm.
election. I should try and
Should
find
sell
out
that.
how to sell that. Yeah, that's
Um,
good. I love it.
but then
Use
I
it all the
sprayed that
time.
all over the space, and within 20 minutes, literally within 20 minutes, he had someone committed to that apartment. Like we removed the source of negative energy, we cleansed the energy with the Florida water, and within 20 minutes, he had now get this, he hadn't been able to rent the place in like 7 months. And that's a long time for this area, right? So I feel like that's an example of us being able to go into the bowels, the plutonic bowels of our neighborhood energy and like create a peaceful experience through it, like going into, like Orpheus, going into the pits of hell and coming back out and hopefully not looking back to like lose
Well, that's the thing. When
Eurydice,
you
right?
when you dispose of something, you can't look over
Don't
your
look back,
shoulder.
right? Um, but yeah, and not only did he rent that place, he rented two other places that had been unrented for a long period of time. Like it just like it completely changed the energy of the home and of like his fortunes. And he got confirmation a few days later from the previous tenant that they're like, oh yeah, I think someone was trying to curse me. That was meant for me, not for you. And like, because in our area, there's a lot of people that do astrological magic.
Just magic. Period.
This is like the,
We're
yeah,
in
magic,
we're
not,
in like the queerest, witchiest
yeah,
part of Michigan.
yes. And it's not uncommon for people who are feeling disempowered to turn to something like that to change their circumstances. And I think it's all about, they're just tools. And how do you utilize those with positive intentions or negative intentions? And are you utilizing those in an ethical way or an unethical way? There's all sorts of conversations to have about that. Um, but I think it's an example of Pluto in the third house. The really fascinating thing about that is that the person that is my friend that owns the home, if you would look at him, you'd be like, that's the most straight laced arrow person in the world.
Very,
And
very normie coded.
yes, and like after that, he started being very curious. He was like, what happened? What did you do? Like, that's really interesting. Tell me more about this. And we had a really nice long conversation where we connected over sort of some of our own practices, what we believe in, and we were curious about what he believes in. And it allowed him to like open up about some dreams that he was having around some really difficult like family dynamics and like experiences of loss. And it sort of opened him, it felt like it was opening him up to some of the intangible things in life that he may have not had an outlet to discuss.
And I would say also then part of that was an exchange of like
Right,
skills. Like he was
right,
like, hey, you can just patch this hole in your wall this way and it'll be really easy. And we were like,
right.
oh, cool, thanks.
Yeah, he
And that's
came
that
over
like
and helped us with some
that
stuff.
energy of cross pollination
Right.
with like that Gemini energy that can be good. Like the
Yeah.
good side of Gemini is just that kind of like quick sharing of knowledge and kind of like, oh, like you just get a little taste of some like new idea or something or get exposed to something and it's like, oh, like I never thought of it that way. And we were all in that thing where it's like, oh, I never thought of it that way. And
Mm-hmm.
that's so it's a really important space to get into sometimes. But
It was
yeah,
really nice though.
it
It
was.
was
It's
a
been,
really nice
yeah,
experience.
no, it
And
was nice.
it's what's really cool is when sometimes when we study things like astrology or astrological magic or things of that nature, a lot of times we're guarded about it because there's a lot of times where people just dismiss us as crazy or like as like weird or something like that. And when you actually connect with someone who you would be a little bit nervous about sharing that part of yourself and they validate it, that I mean is really special, and then being able to validate the parts of them, the gifts that they have to offer, I think is really important. Like I really appreciate my neighbor's ability to really fix or beautify any physical space. He's a genius at it. He makes these beautiful, like he renovates so beautifully. He takes pride in it. And I just being able to absorb that knowledge and appreciate that and validate him for that work that he's put in that sphere of influence, that's when we can facilitate the types of exchanges with people where we don't necessarily have to be all the same. We don't necessarily have to believe everything exactly the same, and we can validate each other's places of genius. Kate says, I feel like our charts are similar, Sergey. My siblings and I are strange. Many overdoses between them with heroin and fentanyl. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that,
I'm
Kate.
sorry. That's so
That's
hard.
tough. Javier says, everything is making me cry since the Sag full moon, Mercury ingress into Cancer. It won't stop.
Same,
Oh.
same girl, same.
A lot of emotions going on,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and that's the thing too, that it's like there's
Yeah.
just a lot of feelings, big feels all around.
Yeah, it's definitely a shift where we're in our emotions and we're communicating through our emotions rather than just through our rational intellects. So that's something to lean. Body language becomes much more important with Mercury and Cancer. Sergey says, sorry to hear that, Kate. It's tough to lose one's sibling. So many beautiful memories from youth and the knowledge where it all led in the end. Let's hope life is better for us and our loved ones. I agree. That's a beautiful sentiment, Sergey. Kate says, I love that you have Florida water for elections.
I have 4 elections and I have made on elections.
Well,
because I do the most.
I mean, you can make Florida water, but how interesting is it to infuse good planetary magic into it as well? You know, like a lot of people make things like Florida water or things like that, but they don't astrologically elect it. And one of the things to think about is back in the way back, magic and astrology were not really separate disciplines. You had magic, astrology, and alchemy all being interconnected and related, and one would make the other more powerful and more effective, etc. So you're just working with all of these different esoteric energies. Kate says, Sergey, absolutely. Knowing the dark is what gives me utter joy in the light. I love that. I love that.
And I think that's something maybe with that energy of Pluto. Like Pluto can just be so intense, but it's that kind of like very intensity that can kind of spark these cycles where it's like there's a terrible loss or something like just like abruptly like falls into the earth that you thought was going to be there forever, and then something really important can come in its place, or that loss gives you kind of an insight that you wouldn't have had, or like a care for the moments that you do have. But yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
Javier says, LOL curses.
Oh my
I
God.
mean,
These I love everyone out there who is learning to like kind of connect with their intuition and their craft and their art, and like interested in engaging with kind of the practice of magic. But sometimes I see like things that like baby witches have done, and I'm just like, oh sweetheart, you're just making a mess. You're just making a huge mess for everyone. And now like we have to go in and clean it up. And I did that.
I will say
I was that person at some point.
I will say too, like a curse isn't a substitute for learning social skills. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not a substitute for learning how to work with your own fellow human beings. And I think that it is very important to I think that there are certain circumstances where a last resort it might be appropriate. But if you are resorting to that just because you have a minor disagreement with somebody or something, just like what we experienced.
Like calling the police.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
It's like calling.
I'm calling the spiritual police.
Yeah, right. Exactly. There are ways to work things out in different ways, and I think that it's important to really be really judicious about things of that nature, and also be very careful, because a lot of those things can boomerang back on you if you don't know what you're doing and you're not taking precautions, and you can just end up blowing yourself up. I know that sounds like crazy in some level, but you can have that energy just boomeranging back on you.
Yeah, sometimes.
Magical tools and concrete ways to resolve real challenges, especially in normie culture, gaining more momentum towards understanding and accepting that we can know things by another way, knowing. Yes, I agree. Kate says the exchange of values. There you go. There you go.
100%.
Through knowledge and experience. The affirmation from validation is extensively powerful. I agree. It is. It feels really good. Like I said, like you're not always going to get that reaction with people, but if you spark curiosity with people, and I think that if you share your wisdom and your knowledge in ways that people can see the benefit of doing so, Like we were utilizing our knowledge and wisdom to help someone, like to help clear away some negativity so that like the process could continue to happen and flourish and whatnot. I mean, it was good for us too because we don't want a cursed next door neighbor or someone living in a cursed energy. We want someone who lives in a nice space, and a nice spatial energy is going to attract people that are having a better experience rather than cursed energy is going to attract people that are like, yes, this is where I want to live. There's an active curse here. You know what I mean? Like you probably those types of neighbors may have more struggles and more challenges. We were thinking about this with this other house too. A neighbor was telling us that the house where the people are re-entering society from being incarcerated historically was a place where Civil War soldiers were returning back from war as like a halfway house.
No,
Can you
yeah.
imagine the energy
No, yeah.
that is residually left in a space like that gets perpetuated over time?
Trauma ghosts.
Exactly. And we almost kind of tried to slip some Florida water into that house because I don't really want to go in there, but we gifted some to one of our more problematic neighbors, and we're like, here, spray this in your if you're feeling chaotic, or spray this
Yeah.
in places. And he's like, yeah,
when the demons come.
right. And he's like,
And
yeah,
they will.
I think there's someone who committed suicide in this apartment. The energy's always been really bad there. And I'm like, well, spray this there. And he's like, he's being the chaos demon that he is. He like sprayed it on my shirt, and I'm like, you don't spray it right on your clothes or my clothes, man, because there's oils in there. But he's like,
And also, like, it won't get rid of you. You're like,
right.
I'm on your side, bro.
He just doesn't think things through like
It's
that.
fun.
I have a soft spot for him. I'll be honest with you. Kate says, I don't know, Spencer. I'm thinking curses could be a great substitute for social skills. In some circumstances, I can agree, but I do think that learning how to talk to people is important too. And I think that you don't have to have one tool in your toolkit, I guess is what I will say.
Yeah, and it's also like there's a time like when I think that magic is so meaningful and important, particularly for people for whom things don't come easily. Like if you are marginalized or if you are someone who is not listened to, or you just can't get that kind of traction in conventional society, or you're trying to do things the normal way or the right way, definitely. Like Spencer and I differ a little bit on some things, but I'm a little bit more like, you know what? The world's a complicated place. Sometimes you got to get a little dark with it to get things done. And
that's our Capricorn rising talking. Like, I don't know, but just there are different approaches that people take.
Well, that's the thing. Like you want this, like you say, it's all tools in a toolkit.
Yeah.
And like, you can use a hammer to like, attack someone or build a house.
Javier says, I was just mid-cry and you said curses and I laughed out of it. There you go. There you go. Hopefully we're helping. Sergey says, yes, curses seem like something that young magicians get into, probably why some teachers recommend not getting into it until 25 plus. I could agree with that on a lot of levels because, I mean, think about how emotionally up and down we are as teenagers and how emotional we get, how we're still learning how to interact with people. And I think if you give a very emotional person a very powerful weapon, it could lead to some really tragic outcomes. And I think if you give someone that same tool, weapon, etc., after they have worked on themselves for a number of years and learned how to self-regulate in a lot of ways, I think that can be more an effective use of it. It's not to say that like there's not circumstances where it's warranted. I think that there's some justice work that happens out there where people are powerless. This is why people turn to these things, because they are in a disempowered situation, and the normal avenues for attaining justice are not serving them, whether it's through their own ostracization from society, or whether it's through like systemic things like systemic racism, or like historically in the hoodoo tradition, like African Americans were utilizing this to become empowered when they were enslaved, right? So there are circumstances where it's like, how are you balancing the scales back out in situations that are very imbalanced? But maybe you could speak on that more.
I think also something that's kind of coming to my mind is that when you are young, like, when you're growing and you're still feeling things and experiencing things for the first time, like interpersonal differences or like a social slight can feel like a real dangerous attack. Like it can feel like the end of the world. It does feel like you're going to die if someone breaks up with you, or if you get in a fight with someone, or if someone's talking bad about you. And then it's like, no, I have to retaliate, like full force. Like we're getting out the black candles, we're getting the pins, like I'm screaming in the jar. Like, but sometimes as you get more perspective or more kind of a range of experiences, you'll be like, okay, I'm the real magic sometimes is just working on yourself and kind of managing yourself and what you can control. But then there is the flip side, which is that there will be situations where there are forces arrayed against you, or situations where you don't have the power that you need to survive, to protect yourself, to earn money, to like take care of your family, to try to keep people safe against things that are just much bigger than you. And that is where practical magic, left-handed magic, hoodoo, conjure, things like that can be so potent and helpful and necessary. Like you say, you're in a court case against someone who has a lot more money than you. Maybe you're going to do some magic on it, and then things will go in your favor, and everyone will be like, how did you do that? And you'll be like, oh, I don't know, just justice was on my side this time. But there are times when you do need to kind of use multiple things. Like you work in the material world, like you make the phone calls, you keep your ducks in a row, you have your documents as best you can, and you're also going to kind of petition those spirits and those energies that can help you, or that will hold down someone who is negative, who's trying to harm you or your family or someone important to you. And so there's a intersection of things, and you kind of learn this and work on it over time as you refine yourself as a person and a magician.
And Kate has a good comment here saying, I also kind of believe we're practicing magic whether or not we are aware, at least through our thoughts. I agree with that. 100%.
100%.
Yeah. So, yeah, we are powerful creators, whether we are intentional about it or not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean this in like the secret necessarily way, like where, oh, if you put your mind towards a Lamborghini or something, but thoughts become beliefs. Beliefs sometimes fuel actions, and then actions create your physical reality. So if you look at the point from getting from point A from point B, your emotions can have an extreme effect on your potential outcomes. Just like I was talking about my negative emotions around my neighbors, for example, would maybe lead me to like have a communication style that would not get the result that I was looking for, because it would make more conflict, because I would go out brooding and maybe wouldn't be able to utilize my communication skills well, rather than if there's a problem or a conflict, instead of just being like, if I approach someone, like I've compared this to like approaching like a stray dog or cat. If I approach someone who has obviously been traumatized, like a dog that is acting out, if you come across a stray dog or something like that, a lot of the times it's because they have been traumatized. If you come up at a stray dog, you come at them directly and you start growling at them, you're like, they're just going to get more entrenched in the trauma and get spooked and either run away or bite you. If you come at a traumatized stray dog or stray person indirectly, okay, like don't look them in the eye, you come with your hand out with like a little treat, you say, here's a little treat, and you speak real calmly, you speak real softly.
Never underestimate
And
the
then
power of little treats.
and then you start building trust. That can lead to much better outcomes moving forward, and it all comes from the approach that you took with your personal energy, rather than coming from a different perspective and different energy source. When you come at people, you can, if you're not centered, you are going to be adding to the negativity rather than helping to diffuse it. And to me, that is where we become powerful creators. That's why a lot of spiritual, I don't know, practitioners say, how do you work on yourself? How do you center yourself? so that what you are bringing to the situation isn't adding to the conflict or whatnot. Doesn't mean that you don't have to go back and forth. Like, here's another example. I had a young gentleman next door who mowed down half of my native pollinator habitat, like with a lawnmower, because he just wasn't paying attention. And I was at first very upset about that. And I said, in my mind, I'm like, this guy's going through some stuff, and let's talk about it. So I just said, hey, let's, neighbor, uh, how you doing? First of all, I didn't just launch into it. I just had exchanged some pleasantries. So it's not like I'm just launching. I'm like, approach sideways with a little treat out, and then being like, hey, did you mow over this kind of thing? Maybe in the future, like, maybe I could just take care of this space. Like, it was part of there was a little strip on one side of the driveway, and he just
The liminal spaces.
mowed it over. And I was like, maybe I'll just take care of this in the future. Is that cool? Because it looks like you accidentally mowed over a decorative grass that might have looked like and assuming positive intent. That's another thing. Like, don't assume negative intent. Don't be like, hey, asshole, you did this on purpose and fuck you. Like, that's going to get a much different reaction than, hey, maybe you didn't know that this was actually something I was trying to grow. And maybe in the future, I'll take care of this, and then you won't have to do that. And maybe just look out for that in the future. And then we just had another longer conversation about it, and it was fine. And I felt good about it. But it was because of the approach that led to a better outcome, hopefully, than a negative one where if I had come in, metaphorically guns blazing, right? Kate says, I remember my friend and I as little girls wishing together and laying down leaves, making it so her dad couldn't pass into the home. Ooh, yeah. That's a situation, right?
Yeah. I mean, and kids do magic all the time.
Right.
Like, I definitely think there's that thing of like little girls who are just like having like seances at slumber parties and kind of like making like witch soup like in like a bowl full of mud, and people are like, oh, they're just playing, kids are so silly. And it's like, no, there are
exceptions.
There's stuff cooking.
There's exceptions to everything we've talked about here too. Like with Sergey is like, not learning curse magic until you're a certain age or whatever. Like, if you're going through like an abusive, unequal power dynamic, like, sometimes those are the situations where maybe something like that is called for. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, where, that's a way to become empowered again in that situation. But there's also alternative things to get the help you need too. Kate says he got in an accident that night. Fender bender, arrested and didn't return all weekend. Wow. Very powerful.
That's intense.
That's how I know. Be careful what you wish for is real. I think that's true. I think there's a lot of things we don't understand about how we create in time, Okay, so another question that we had coming up was, did you mention the Mercury enclosure yet? Wanted to check and ask, since there's a retrograde cycle coming up as well. That's a good way of getting us into the next kind of unfolding here. We're going to just go through a little speed run with some of the astrology that's coming up, okay? And then we'll kind of wrap for the day. If you have any more questions about either your chart or technique or astrological magic, just put it in the chat. But we've got a last quarter moon coming up on the 8th, 17 degrees of Pisces. And that's this weekend, right? Coming up this weekend. What is the date today? The 5th?
Yeah.
Into Monday and Tuesday. Yeah. So to me, that's the quarter moons are, how do we reduce the quality that the moon is moving through to be able to carry out the intention of the sun? So we've got something in Gemini 2 right now, and we are trying to reconcile opposites. And to be able to do that, to hold ambiguities, to hold opposing viewpoints, we may have to release our certainty. We may have to release our desire to put ourselves in situations where we are trying to run before we have more information, like where we're trying to become the sorcerer's apprentice, like we've been talking about today. Okay, because maybe we just need more education. Maybe we need more practice. Okay, so that's really fits in with what we were talking about. Uranus emerges as the morning star at 2 degrees of Gemini on the 8th as well. A big turning point where Uranus is at the bending of the nodes. It is at the bending of the nodes, but it's also becoming visible as much as a planet like Uranus can become visible, this is sort of
quote
maybe a
unquote visible.
slightly controversial technique, but we'll talk about it. Um, but maybe some kind of new information that you're getting that you finally becomes conscious or becomes useful with Uranus that could lead to some big changes in your life and how you manage everything. The Venus-Jupiter conjunction is Tuesday the 9th. That is probably some of the best astrological weather of the year.
Unquestionably.
So try to take advantage of that. Try to do something nice. I would also say, instead of thinking about what you could receive during that day, how can you become the facilitator of generosity? How can you be the creator of someone else's good fortune? And if we think about it from that perspective, you might be a lot less disappointed if like your ship doesn't come in that day. You'd be like, astrology told me that this was the best time of the year. Why didn't I get my cookie? Well, maybe you need to be the person that is facilitating that experience for someone else. And I can tell you that that feels really good. And that can give you the feeling that you're searching for. When you are the vehicle for someone else's good fortune, that can be just as good as experiencing it and receiving it yourself.
Huge dopamine.
So think about that with the Venus-Jupiter conjunction.
Also, that is a time when you might not necessarily see the fruition of something, but it could be a really good time to kind of like initiate something in that you really want to nurture, or something that you want to really promote connection with, like just kind of that fertility, that kind of great space to kind of like cradle something and like just put something that's like tiny and vulnerable and just getting started like into that space. And so that those days around, and especially I would say leading up to the conjunction, like now until that Venus conjunct Jupiter moment, like, and maybe even a little after it, just think about things you can do to initiate something that you want to like really grow into something beautiful, and like not necessarily right away, but
and don't expect instant manifestation,
that's
because Mercury is going to apply to a conjunction to Jupiter and then station retrograde before it completes it. So there's more information that we need to create the good fortune. Lauren is here. Painted Turtle says, oh my God, Tanya, I'm so glad that she's on your cast. Speaking of Plutonian neighbors and T being Saturnian, I've been catching some YouTube videos that are this vibe that you guys are talking about. Yeah, there's
a lot.
There's a lot going on in a lot of different communities right now, astrological communities and magic communities. There's been like an astrological like kerfuffle, I guess you could call it, about astrocartography.
Oh man.
And like someone who trademarked the name that didn't even invent it. It's so stupid. It's that kind of thing does annoy me, because the more we try to litigate knowledge, I guess you could say, or like hoard it so that other people can't use it or name something,
just pee on it and be like,
just,
it's mine.
Yeah, it's just gross. And
silly times.
Not necessary. No. You know what I mean? We're being trained to like feel like it's scarcity mindset. You know, it's saying that if other people use this, there's less for me. You know, and that to me is a really toxic way of looking at the world. As a believer in sharing knowledge and sharing technique and lineage too. I've seen a lot of astrologers recently talking about lineage, and this person was so grotesque as to send a cease and desist letter to their teacher who had taught them some of these things. This is like, come on, how fucked up in the head do you have to be to just do that type of thing like that? I get really kind of like, what are we doing here, friends? What are we doing here? But I digress. Kate says, love this idea. Be the change that you'd like to see in your life and in the world. Absolutely, right? How do you become the facilitator of someone's good fortune, really? Lauren says it's called Elements of Mutual Aid, and it's the theme of air, earth, water, and fire. It gets deep into the community work, and it's interesting and dark. What is it? Is it a YouTube video?
Is that the Dean Spade book?
Is that a video or a book?
Dean Spade has a podcast.
Are you sure that that's not the movie that we missed?
Oh yeah.
Is that no.
Oh.
What? Okay, Lauren. No, hold on a second. Okay. Damn it. No, Lauren, was it a guy named Peyton and like his partner,
I don't know,
like Leslie or something? What? Tell me if it was Peyton, like this little.
I think that's what it is. It's their movie.
Oh my God!
So we know the people who made that.
They live in our neighborhood. They literally live in our neighborhood, if that's those people.
No, that's what.
And we were invited to like the premiere of it in our town, and we totally brain farted on it and like missed it. Oh, which is embarrassing.
Yeah,
So
this is the horrifying facet of like the whole Saturn in Aries of it, all which is like my like time blindness and like inability to remember what day it is sometimes jacked us.
I'm mad
I
at myself
sucked.
now.
No, it's sad.
But if
yes,
but
it's
if
probably
if
amazing.
that's what you're talking about, those folks are incredible. And Peyton, if you're watching this, I'm sorry that I missed your premiere, and I really believe in your mission, and
And we'll watch it on YouTube.
you're an awesome human being, and I hope that everything's going well for you. Um, yeah, The Elements of Mutual Aid, I think, is a documentary that, if it's what I'm thinking about, a
That's
couple
what it
people
is.
in our neighborhood
Peyton
were
and Leah.
Leah,
Yep.
yeah, Peyton and
Yeah,
Leah
they're nice.
are sort of like your local anarchists, and no, they're amazing. They're incredible people who have really been doing a lot of community organizing and are very intelligent people who have worked very hard on this documentary. And
Yeah, that's us.
yeah, that's definitely us. Yep. Yeah, you
Yeah,
mentioned Ipsy.
there's
Yep.
some people in the community who just are doing really amazing work with kind of connecting
Yep.
and networking and supporting people and kind of getting the kind of information and systems in place to work together if there's emergencies or if things come up. And so the idea of like, how do you connect with people in your neighborhood?
Right.
How do you support each other through challenges is like so meaningful and important, and just it's really really good. So we're definitely going to watch it. And you're right, we
Yeah,
need
we
to
just
get our
completely
calendar back
we just
back to normal.
completely brain farted on it.
No, that was us.
But they are involved with the group that does like tree distribution for native trees and things like that. So like giving away native trees to the community to plant to be able to restore habitat.
Yeah.
These are all the types of things that you can do to start creating reciprocity within your communities.
Venus Jupiter conjunction
And
activities.
they're super nice. They are some of the best people I think I've ever met. Now I feel really ashamed that we missed their debut thing at the park. And I told them I was going to go, and I feel bad about it. So
we do what we can.
what did we do? Man, we just completely, it wasn't on our schedule.
Anyway,
go check it out. Elements of Mutual Aid. Maybe we'll amplify their signal here. It is, I'm sure, I haven't watched it yet, but I am sure that it is incredible if it is talking about some of the things that I know that the creators are into and have been sharing with the world. Yeah, it says, dude, one guy mentioned Ypsilanti. Yeah, there you go. Yep. Kate says, small world. Y'all get your ADHD calendar back in check. Yeah, we need to. Right. Sorry, friends. No. Lauren says, it already had your vibe, and I was going to send it to you, and I was like, I think he already knows. Send me things, friends. I forget. Like the distraction, this distractibility is real in our lives. So we're all trying to figure out how to stay on track. Complicate says, TikTok actually recently started a Discord. NH TikTok? What is NH? I don't know what that is, but explain more. Okay, so Venus-Jupiter conjunction on the 9th. And now Kate was asking about Mercury in malefic enclosure. So Mercury squares Saturn on the 10th from Cancer 2 to Aries 2. And that's right around the degrees that Mercury is going to station retrograde back to. So keep that in mind. And that's the beginning of Mercury in malefic enclosure from the 10th to the 28th. This is a time period where we might be seeing difficulty with communication, difficulty getting our message received in the way that we're trying to deliver it, because both of the malefic planets, Mars and Saturn, are putting pressure on Mercury. So I think that is a period of time to be extra clear about your communications with people so that you're not making assumptions. I would also say that because Mercury is in Cancer, a lot of the body language and unspoken communication can be a part of Mercury in Cancer's delivery. When it's in malefic enclosure, I think a lot of assumptions could be made about someone's body language or their tone. Okay. So I would get extra clarity. And if someone is saying something in a way that is like rubbing you the wrong way, it might not even be because of you, or it might not be because of what they're saying. It could just be that they're tired that day, or that they're having something else that's different or difficult. I know this from experience. Like, I'm uber sensitive to people's tone and delivery. And if someone's delivering a message in a tone that is like giving me like the red flag, I'm automatically like my guard goes up and I like get a little bit tense. And I think the possibility for those types of misunderstandings are going to be increased during the malefic enclosure. So make sure that you're getting clarity from people. Ask extra questions. Um, New Hampshire TikTok actually started a Discord. That's cool. Yeah, nice. Grassroots and political focus and collaboration. Good. Don't look at me in that tone of voice. Yes, exactly. There you go. I love it.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's the emotions, the
Right.
emotionality of it, and that whole kind of like a lot of the way that Cancer communicates sometimes is just through the kind of like this emotional like fog, or this kind of like miasma that just kind of like wafts outwards, and that can be not as precise as you might like sometimes.
Another opportunity for you to support Tanya and Third Coast Mojo and get your Mercury and Virgo Hermes harvest materia,
That's
so
right.
that you're able to communicate the messages in ways that will be helpful, or that will be received the way that you intend them, right? So there you go.
Get the precision of Mercury in a bottle.
So that goes to the 28th. And that's going to end, I believe, when Mars moves into Gemini. And there is going to be a short malefic enclosure of Venus as well at the end of the month. And it will also end when Mars moves into Gemini. That's not really the end of our challenges, though, because
but it doesn't help.
Because once Mars moves into Gemini, we're starting to see the application of Mars to Uranus. So Gemini 3 between the 10th and the 21st. We're just kind of reviewing how this is going to unfold here. You've got Uranus at the bending of the nodes, so a turning point on the 12th. Mercury enters its retrograde shadow at 16 degrees of Cancer. So it's going to retrograde all the way back to those degrees. So there's probably going to be things you might have to redo, more information that you might have to get, etc. Venus moves into Leo on the 13th. Okay, so this is Venus moving out of the co-presence with Jupiter and into the sign of the sun. Okay, and then we've got our new moon in Gemini 3. We'll do an entire weekly live stream on that, hopefully, in the upcoming weeks. And that's something where it's the beginning of a need to let go of some of the pathways so that you can make a choice, right? And I would also be careful about making ultimatums, because you might change your mind. That's part of that. We will talk about that in depth. Mercury is back in bounds on the 14th. So some of the conversations might be a little bit more normie coded. I don't know if that's the right way.
More like it'll be, more kind of like
status quo.
What you would expect.
Right.
Like less unconventional.
Yes. Venus is going to sextile Uranus and trine Neptune the 15th through the 16th. And then we've got our Venus-Pluto opposition on the 17th, which is a first in a series of oppositions when like Venus and then Jupiter move into Leo. Just the challenges of visibility versus invisibility, the challenges of utilizing our spotlight, utilizing our willpower versus having to be subjected to the will of the collective or the homogenization of the collective. It could feel a little painful sticking out around that period of time. Okay.
It feels like there's a backlash against kind of main character energy that's brewing.
And that's really the last aspect that we have during Gemini season. The sun moves into Cancer on the 21st. And if you want a deeper dive into some of those themes, go check out the astrology of June. And I talked more about this in the full moon in Gemini last week too. So we don't have time to go through every single aspect coming up for the end of June, but this gets us through Gemini season. Okay, friends, we're kind of rounding the bend here. Kate says, my next dental appointment is for the, oh my goodness. So we'll hopefully good luck with that. What is going on then? So we've got, that's the Mercury entering retrograde shadow type period, malefic enclosure. I don't know. Sometimes we still just have to do stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's better to get the information that you need. Maybe you just need more information, right? Maybe you need to get a second opinion or something like that. That could be part of it. Okay. So we're going to do an animal and an I Ching, and then we're going to start wrapping up for the day. Because I'm starting to get hungry. Are you getting hungry? I'm getting hungry.
I have to.
We got stuff to do. So thank you so much for all the questions and comments and things of that nature. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, go visit Tanya over at Third Coast Mojo. Okay, make sure that you're supporting her over there. And if you need help, she's good at answering her messages through Etsy too. If you want to talk about what might be best for your chart, she will take the time to look at your chart, and I sometimes I will look at a chart, but Tanya is very good at the astrological parts of this stuff too. So you can trust in her knowledge with that and to find the right thing to help you on your journey. Let's talk about the hexagram. We've got this hexagram here, which is 55. Okay. Hexagram 55 translates to abundance. Now, if you are a regular, you probably know that we got that same hexagram for June. So it makes sense because this is still June, and it's just the repetition of that for Gemini season. So abundance also translates to zenith, fullness, splendor, being generous, acting decisively, right? Being able to, hold on a second, I lost my notes here. There we go. Being able to live in the present, okay? To make the most of the good times. We've talked about that today, making the most of the remaining Jupiter and Cancer experience, the remaining, Venus conjunct Jupiter type of thing. All of those things I think are important. I don't know why I'm, hold on a second. I got it.
Oh, we're intertwined.
Yeah, sorry. We have different angles today because of the way that we were setting up our video. So one of the things that I will say about this hexagram is it's like a zenith of energy, right? It's like saying you are at the peak of something, and not that it's all downhill from here, but how do you make the most of it while things are in good shape, right? So this says abundance, success. The king approaches. Do not be sad. Be like the sun at midday. It says the sun at noon will surely descend just as it has ascended. But in the meantime, it shines brightly, bestowing warmth and radiance on everything beneath it. In the same way, you now face a moment of rare brilliance and abundance. Everything is now possible. Relationships will flourish. Your ambitions can be achieved. Make the most of this time. Do not worry that things will not always be this perfect. That will only cause you to freeze up. If you mourn what has not yet happened, you will waste your opportunity to do good in the present. So that's really important. And I'm going to go to the changing lines here. Got a few changing lines. And we have the fourth changing line. It says, abundance is screened so completely that no one can see the pole stars at noon. He meets his Lord, who is his equal, good fortune. Jack Balkin goes on to say, your ability to advance has been blocked for some time now. Now at last you encounter the elements that you need to succeed. You are able to unite with people with similar aims who can help you make progress. Work with them. You may find that you have complementary talents, great drive and enthusiasm on one hand, shrewdness and sound judgment on the other. If you can combine enthusiasm with wisdom and energy with prudence, together you will achieve great things. Okay, so that's really nice, right? Working with others, combining your talents, offering your services, exchanging information like we've talked about today. In the fifth place, it says, beauty and brilliance come forward. Blessing and fame draw near. Good fortune. Beauty and brilliance refers to the people of brilliance and abundant talents who come forward to aid the sovereign. Line 5, like the line of the ruler, is yin, or yielding. Is a yielding line, which means the king accepts their contributions gladly, without envy or hesitation. He honors them and all benefit. Be open and receptive. You have much to learn from other people. Do not be afraid to accept help when it is offered. Take full advantage of the talents and wisdom of people who can advise you about the best course of action. If you recognize their contributions appropriately, they will be only too happy to help you. Modesty and a cooperative attitude will bring great success that will benefit everyone. So that's really positive, right? And then finally, there's one last changing line. It says, abundance in his house. He screens off his family. He peers through the door, lonely and abandoned. For 3 years, he sees no one. Misfortune. So a lot of times in the I Ching, we have like a narrative that's unfolding. And it gives us warnings as far as What if we take things too far? Okay, it says in line 6, the season of abundance has ended. The lesson is that times of plenty are destroyed when people become selfish and uncooperative. In their short-sightedness, they destroy the very conditions in which good fortune can be reproduced and sustained. Your desire for power and success has cut you off from other people. You've become arrogant and obstinate, obsessed with control. As a result, you have failed to share your blessings with others. Remember those who helped you in the past and be generous to those who are striving upward as you have strived before. If you insist on keeping everything for yourself, you will become completely isolated and will lose touch with other human beings. This will rob you of the most precious of all possessions. I think this is just a warning to not hoard. You know, like when we're talking about luxury in that third decan of Cancer, how do we share our wealth with others, share our abundance of time or of skills, share our abundance of knowledge? There's always something that we have an abundance of, even if it's not physical resources. This is changing to the hexagram number 37, the family, the household, the clan, the close-knit groups, the house people, playing your part, establishing expectations, serving as an example, and creating mutual trust. So this is a hexagram, and a judgment says the family, the perseverance of a woman is beneficial. Although the hexagram is concerned with the family, in ancient China, the family was a metaphor and a model for virtually all forms of social organization. Hence, the hexagram is also about the ideal forms of social life and social relations. Each of the members of the family, the father, the mother, the son, the daughter, the elder sibling, the younger sibling, had specific duties and relationships. When each of them fulfilled their proper obligations to the others, each of them played their respective roles appropriately, and the family was well ordered. The Chinese believed that if the family was well ordered, then all of society would be well ordered. Okay, so this is about learning about what is your role to play? What gifts do you have to offer to others? What are the things that you can contribute? And is the role that you're playing appropriate? Are you utilizing the proper things that you want to give out into the world based on your specific skill set? All right. So now we've got a animal. It's the aardvark. Tanya, you had any aardvark experiences?
I do not.
So,
Although I think I saw a video of one, and they gave it like a canister of peanut butter and ants, and it like
nice.
just stuck its nose in the like ant peanut butter mixture, and it was adorable. And that's it.
All right. So here's the aardvark I'm going to read you from Animal Frequency by Melissa Alvarez. The aardvark symbolizes cautiousness and slow progression, digging for what's underneath, adaptability, and change. It is active at night and can cover long distances and doesn't stay in one place too long. Preferring to move on to new and unexplored areas, it possesses a cautious and timid nature, but trusts its instincts, acute hearing, and sense of smell to signal danger. It has very thick, tough skin, which saves it from predators. It can be feisty and aggressive when necessary, but prefers a quiet life of solitude. It has talents of being adventurous, of clairaudience, communicating intentions. Remember we talked about communication. Discovery, efficiency, excellent hearing, exceptional instincts when searching for truth. Exploration, finding safe places, a good planner, loves to travel, organization, and peacefulness. There are challenges around becoming reclusive and antisocial. Difficulty putting down roots in one place. Fear of losing control, hiding away at home instead of going out. Nervousness, overly focused on methods and procedures and not stepping outside of the box, overly timid and shy. When the aardvark appears, it is a sign to stop, look around, and make sure that people in your environment are really who and what they appear to be and aren't projecting one image but have different intentions. If you're embarking on a new adventure in your career or relationship, use caution and be certain of the steps that you'll take instead of jumping headfirst and asking questions later. Aardvark means you need to take some time for yourself in quiet solitude to aid in relaxation and for clarity of mind and spirit, which will enable you to see the truth of situations, reconnect to your core spiritual being, and gain amazing insights and realizations. You accomplish more after dark than during the day. You have thick skin and don't let negativity of others get you down. You are organized and methodical and like to stay in control. Your hearing is excellent and you probably have the gift of clairaudience. Aardvark warns you to listen not only to what is being said, but what is being insinuated. Remember we talked about that with Mercury moving through Cancer. The body language, what's the tone that they're using? All of those things become important. This animal assists you when you're starting a new job or relationship and are unsure about it. Aardvark can help you find the truth in situations where you feel uncomfortable or suspect dishonesty. If you'd like to engage in more social activities, ask Aardvark to assist. It will help you to take appropriate precautions as you step out of your comfort zone of solitude and engage in wonderful experiences when interacting with others. If you're planning a move, it can help you find an interesting place to live. You tackle many subjects of interest, digging deeply to learn as much as possible. You never know when you'll need to pull from your huge knowledge bank. If you're overwhelmed, Aardvark can help you get organized and add structure to your life. Maybe with some help of Saturn materia. All right, so that's what we've got, friends. All right. I want to thank Tanja for hanging out today and answering questions and adding her wisdom to everything. Make sure, friends, that you are supporting Tanja over at Third Coast Mojo. Okay. Got a few comments here. Says, I guess my question was too late, Silent Murmur says. Oh, did I miss one? Did I miss a question?
Oh.
I'm sorry. Where did I miss a question? Ask your question. If you have a question, you can ask it. I feel like maybe I missed it. Anyway, put it in the chat if you have it. Kate says, I love this hexagram. Like being on top of a roller coaster or the crescendo of a song, ultimately the climax. Absolutely. Kate says, Javier, a painted turtle, Sergey, Stella, Gemini Fire, Scarlett, Angela, and of course Spencer and Tanja. Thank you. Appreciate you, Kate. Hope that you're having a great Friday afternoon and everything's going well. Thank you, Sergey, for being here, and hope everything's going well your way, my friend. We're sending you love and sending you all the good vibes for those dignified malefics that you're dealing with in your chart, right? Okay. So go over to Third Coast Mojo. Remember, there's all sorts of cool stuff that Tanja has over there. I mean, we've talked a lot about them today, but Hermes Harvest, Sun in Leo, Venus in Pisces. We've got Mars in Capricorn materia, scientific method, Saturn Aquarius. There's a lot of cool things there, and she does really great work. And again, if you have questions, feel free to message her via Etsy as well. Okay. Let's see. Silent Murmur says, my question about Mars and Uranus conjunct 6th house moon, 2-degree Gemini trine, Pluto, and Venus. My question was about Mars and Uranus conjunct a 6th house moon, 2 degrees Gemini. What is the question? Is it just that you have that? And what does that mean? Or is it that you're having an experience with it? Elaborate for me. While you're doing that, friends, remember to find me over on social media at Spencer Michaud. You can also find Tanja at Third Coast Mojo on social media. Okay, she has an Etsy account that you can follow as well. Do me a favor too. Please like the video today. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to our newsletter if you want to know when we're releasing either new products or when we're going live. That can be helpful. But yeah, let me see if I can squeeze one more in here. Worried. Stella, Silent Murmur is worried about having the Mars-Uranus conjunct a 6th house moon at 2 degrees Gemini. Okay, I understand now. Okay. So I will say this, Silent Murmur. The Mars-Uranus conjunction is, and if it's in your 6th house, the moon is going to be, if that's Gemini, that is hosting the 7th house, if I'm not mistaken, right? Cancer, 7th house after Gemini. So there might be like a relationship thing, right? Silent Murmur says, yeah, Painted Turtle says, where can we contact Tanja more? Like email. Do you have an email to contact you, Tanja?
Yeah, they can email thirdcoastmojo@gmail.
Yeah, thirdcoastmojo@gmail.com.
I'll try to remember to check it.
There you go. Mars-Uranus usually indicates physical accidents, Silent Murmur says. It might not even be necessarily your own challenges. It could be through a partner, could be through an enemy. You know, it could be like the fall of your enemies. Maybe that might be something. 7th house can be open enemies. Yeah, exactly. It could be more just feeling overwhelmed by choices and feeling like you just have so much information coming in. So I think being able to center yourself with different grounding techniques, nervines might be another thing to help. So Tanya actually has a really good Venus in Libra. What is that one called?
There's an oil called Serene
Serene
Queen,
Queen. That's right.
which is really designed to be soothing. It has like
Yes.
passion flower and lavender, chamomile, very gentle, very like relaxing.
It could just be like that your nervous system feels overloaded and like there's just too much information coming in. So journaling, like being able to give that information a job or to get it out of your head so it's not ping ponging around. All of those things I think can help to mitigate some of those challenges for
And
sure.
just make sure your ducks are in a row, because
Yeah.
that is just like the essence of like unexpected, like
Yes.
something that you can't
Give
expect
yourself
it,
extra
life doesn't follow
space
its nature.
during that time. So don't like crowd your schedule too much. Give yourself extra space for life to happen. I think that's a way to really navigate transits when we see things like that that are coming up, right? Let's see. Scarlett says, hold on a second. Oh, we've got some really good stuff coming in here. Kate says, silent member sounds very creative. Could be very creative. Scarlett says, thank you so much. Great info. Thank you, Scarlett, for being here. Pay and Turtle says, Mars Uranus can also be like, I can't live like this anymore. A change of drive or direction. Could be. Yeah, I think that's good. Sixth house is also the joy of Mars. Yeah, Mars is really powerful there. Mars joys there. I think that when we say, a lot of time when we say joy of Mars or the joy of Saturn, I think it depends on what kind of relationship people have with Mars or with Saturn. Mars joys in the sixth house because it enjoys like creating injuries and illnesses and things like that. So a powerful Mars and its joy doesn't necessarily mean that it's joyful for the individual. It might mean that just Mars is enjoying in what they're doing.
Oh boy!
Oh,
Smashing things. Things are on fire.
It could also mean like positive things though. I think a lot there. I've seen charts where people like did like military service or something like that, and they had Mars in its joy, and it was well dignified or something like that.
Martial arts.
Martial arts, exactly, things like that. Kate says, "Oh, the sixth. I was thinking intelligence being two moon, but sixth house might lead to migraines, for example, or how your alternative views alienate. Could be, right?" Murmur says, "I love passion flower. That might be a good one for you then, right?" Turtle says, can be very, very productive person because they can adapt and understand chaos more than the rest of us. Uranus there can also help with the warnings of lightning storms of Uranus. I agree with that. So Murmur says, definitely nervous system, easily overloaded when something touches the moon. There you go, right? So how do you like things like meditation? How do you calm your nervous system? Whether it's, I like lavender essential oil is good for that too. Just rubbing a little bit on your wrist. That's something that can help.
Just grab yourself the biggest cup of chamomile tea.
There you go, chamomile tea.
Your
Look up nervine herbs. Those could be really helpful. Kate says, good point, Terrell. Sounds like they're saying, don't sweat Mars, the small things, Gemini. There you go. Says, most of us don't catch the danger before the thunder, Lauren says, right? Murmur says, a lot of creative ideas and projects popping up, so that could be how it plays out. I think so. But you don't have to pursue every single one. I think that's the thing, too, is don't get paralyzed by so many ideas. Just choose the ones that truly speak to your heart, and don't feel like you have to make every single one into a reality. Kate says, all right, i.e., I'm emotional thinking about how we kind of came together for Silent Murmur just now. Yeah, it is good. The community is helping out for sure.
Lots of care.
Thank goodness sixth house is the joy of Mars. Chamomile tea is the most excellent, and I love the scent. Yeah, so those are great ways to, like, I think, deal with that kind of challenge. Really take care of your nervous system. Don't get overloaded with too much information. Maybe even detaching from sources of distraction. Maybe going on like a week of phone binge or something, or not binge, but phone. What is it? Fasting. A phone fast, right? Maybe just turning off the phone for a little bit and not getting overwhelmed with the influx of information and stuff like that. So all sorts of different approaches there that can, I think, lead to better outcomes moving forward. Kate says, I feel like lavender for sure, but tinfoil hat too.
Sure. Got to cover all your bases. I love it.
Direct that energy. Exactly. It's funny that you can tell, I feel like I need to make all the creative project ideas happen, but there are too many. Yeah. And that's maybe where the frustration comes in, right? So how can you just choose a few things and try to integrate them without feeling like you have to do every single thing. And that's really good advice for Gemini season in
It's good
general.
advice for all of us.
For all of us, yes. Like for us too. Like we sometimes try to live above our complexity ceiling. That's the kind of thing that where how do you stay below your complexity ceiling so you don't feel overwhelmed, or so that you don't like beat yourself up if you can't turn every single nugget of information or inspiration into a physical project. This is a lot of times our problem is we get these little ideas and then we feel bad about ourselves if we can't make every single one of them into a fully realized thing. And we've been a lot of times lately we've been just like, how do we do less? Just do less, do less, do less. And it's not that we're not ambitious. It's that we're just trying to manage our energy levels as we go through different life stages, as we go through different transits. How do we manage our energy levels so that we're not like feeling bad that we're not being able to do everything that comes into our mind, right? Kate says, make another notebook that's only for ideas. I love that idea. Murmur says, I rarely use my phone, but maybe a break from watching the news. I think that's a good idea. Absolutely. And we'll talk more about Mars Uranus as we move forward in the next few weeks too. Silent Murmur. I did address it a little bit in the astrology of June. Well, it's coming in July. It's coming in the 4th. I think I addressed it in the last full moon video, but we're going to be talking about it. Yeah, we're all going to be going through it with you. So we'll try to figure out a community solution. Saying another because I have a feeling.
I feel called out.
What?
I feel because it's the another notebook.
Oh, another notebook.
Like 17
okay.
notebooks
Gotcha.
going at any given time.
Definitely feel too slow. Yeah, we're all on our own timetables. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, don't feel like you have to rush things. That's another Saturn and Aries thing, is feeling like you have to do everything right now or you won't ever have the opportunity together. That's not how Saturn works. You know what I'm saying? Like Saturn sometimes reveals these things over time. So to add Saturn energy back into it is going to add some patience into the mix. They conjoin exactly on July 4th, my favorite holiday. Yes, it's going to be some fireworks that day for sure. Like metaphorically and and literally. I would also say if you are celebrating with pyrotechnics, be very careful.
Careful
like
of your fingers.
That's the kind of thing that's practical advice. Silent Murmur is if you do like are going to like a 4th of July celebration or anything like that, be extra careful. Even to the point of canceling your fireworks celebration. Like I've watched my ding dong neighbor like hold Roman candles in his hands and like almost blow his fingers off, and I'm just like, come on, man, like what are we doing here? So be real careful with that kind of thing. Lauren says, strength training exercises to tear muscles to satisfy Mars and Moony emotions, but slow down that Mars through tearing of new form. I like that. Good advice. Starting a new notebook sounds good. Javier says, that's why I keep crying. Saturn Aries. It's like everyone's dead and gone. Now we'll never see them again. Oh, I'm sorry, Javier. You'll get through this. One day at a time, friend. One day at a time.
Yeah. Let's keep moving.
Kate says, or tear the notebooks up after. That's a good idea. Write it down, get rid of it, I'll be staying far from matches and fire. There you go. That, I mean, is probably the most practical thing. If you know you have that and it's affecting you, take extra precautions. Don't put yourself in situations that are making it more likely to have an injury or an illness. Don't like go
skydiving.
Exactly. Don't go skydiving when Mars Uranus is on your moon. Like these are just like things where it feels like common sense, but oftentimes when we're going through life with a non-K, ignorance, sometimes we're living out those aspects and we don't know any better. But astrology, so you're going to be better prepared for this, friend. All my candles are battery operated. There you go. I love it. All right, my friends. That's what we've got for you. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Thank you, Tanya, for joining me. And I hope that you all have a wonderful next few weeks. I hope you have a wonderful Venus-Jupiter conjunction. Remember, what can you give to somebody? How can you brighten someone's day? I mean, it feels so good to give and to embrace generosity through our abundance through our generosity is what I meant to say. Be kind to one another. If you approach the stray animals in your life, whether they're human or otherwise, indirect, calm tones, little treats,
always bring a treat.
Build trust over time. And I think that can really lead to some better outcomes. All right, friends, that's what I've got. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Appreciate you. And we'll see you the next time. All right. Take care, friends. Peace.